Ever wonder what ancient secrets are still buried beneath time and sand? Welcome to Unearthed Secrets, where we reveal the world's most mysterious artifacts, from golden cups to impossible temples. Subscribe, hit like, and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is there. Let's begin. The cup that drank the moon. Beneath the Andean sky, where the winds sweep down from mountains draped in white, where the coast meets the desert in a thin band of life, there was once a people who carved meaning into every grain of sand, every glimmer of metal, every shadow cast by the moon. They were the Moche, artisans of gold and blood, masters of irrigation and story, worshippers of gods who were neither kind nor cruel, but vast, distant, and demanding. From their hands came one of the most haunting relics ever uncovered from the earth, a golden vessel, shaped by fire and patience, engraved with patterns that flicker like whispers. It has been called the cup that drank the moon. It does not shine with the polished perfection of modern metalwork. Instead, its surface seems to ripple in the light, like water touched by the night wind. When one gazes into it, they do not see a reflection so much as a suggestion. Faces half-formed, moons caught in phases, serpents coiling along invisible edges. It is said that it was raised during ceremonies when the moon, low and full, hovered above the Pacific horizon, casting its silver trail across the waves. In those moments the cup was tilted, not to the lips of man, but to the sky itself, as though the moon were asked to pour part of itself into the vessel. The desert, of course, hides more than it reveals. The sands of Peru bury temples, canals, and the bones of countless lives. Archaeologists uncovered this cup in a tomb, nestled beside the remains of a figure adorned in ornaments, a figure who had not been a warrior, but a priest. His body, though fragile with time, still carried traces of red pigment on the bones. Around him were offerings of shells, turquoise, and gold, and at the center, lying across his chest, was the cup. It seemed to wait, as if its ritual had been interrupted, as if the moon had not yet finished its drink. The Moche were storytellers in clay and in metal. Their ceramics are among the most vivid in the ancient world, depicting warriors in battle, fishermen casting nets, women grinding maize, even lovers embracing. But their gold was reserved for the gods. A cup such as this was not for wine, not for water, not even for blood in the way we might expect. It was for transformation. The Moche believed that gold was not mere metal, it was sunlight captured and made solid. Silver was its twin, moonlight condensed. To drink from gold was to drink from the sun itself, to let that power flow through the body. To offer gold to the moon was to bind heaven and earth with a thread no blade could cut. Imagine the night of such a ritual. The desert winds would fall silent, torches would flicker against temple walls, their smoke trailing into the black. Priests would gather in garments dyed with rare shells, the air heavy with the smell of burnt offerings, maize, coca leaves, and the faint metallic tang of blood. The golden cup would be lifted, catching the glow of fire and the pale gleam of moonlight. Its rim, delicately hammered, might have touched lips trembling with both fear and ecstasy, and perhaps, as the liquid poured, the watchers believed the moon itself bowed lower, leaning down as though to drink. But the cup is more than ritual. Its engravings tell a story, though one that has no words. Tiny figures, etched along its curve, appear as dancers with arms outstretched, or perhaps as shadows of the constellations overhead. Serpents ripple through its design, and birds stretch wings that fade into jagged lines like mountain peaks. Some scholars say these are not decorations but maps, cosmic diagrams of the path the soul must take after death. The Moche did not see the world as separate pieces of land, sky, and ocean. To them it was all one great weaving, and the cup was both a vessel and a thread. The discovery of the cup raised questions no answer can fully settle. Was it meant to hold sacred chicha beer, brewed from maize and fermented in the earth? Was it to catch the blood of sacrifice, poured not to quench thirst, but to fuel the cycle of creation? Or was it empty, always empty, because its true filling came from the moon itself, invisible yet binding? The truth lies somewhere in silence. The Moche left no written language, only images and objects, and so the cup speaks in symbols. It is not difficult to picture the priest who once carried it. His hands, trained by ritual, would have known the weight of the vessel as though it were part of him. The gold would have warmed against his palms, reflecting the torchlight in restless flickers. Each movement was practiced, each gesture meant to mirror the celestial dance. Around him a crowd might have knelt in the sand, their faces tilted upward, awaiting the blessing of the moon through the shining mouth of the cup. And when the ritual ended, when the night slipped away, the cup would be hidden again, placed in darkness until the next time it was called. The moon was central to the Moche world. Its phases dictated planting and harvest. Its light guided fishermen across dangerous waters. Its pull shaped the tides that fed them. The moon was also linked to power and sacrifice. While the sun blazed unchanging, the moon shifted, disappeared, returned, an eternal cycle of death and rebirth. The cup that drank the moon, then, was not a mere ornament. It was a bridge to this cycle, a reminder that death itself was only a phase, that even bones could one day rise like the moon from shadow. When modern eyes first fell upon it, the cup seemed almost too delicate to survive. Centuries of sand had not dulled its surface. Its engravings were still sharp, its form unbroken. Some whispered that perhaps the moon had indeed protected it, holding it safe through time's collapse. To lift it now is to feel history condensed in metal. Light turned solid, ritual turned silent. The tomb where it was found was not grand by comparison to others, but the cup transformed it. Without it, it might have been just another resting place among thousands. With it, the tomb became a story, one that reaches across centuries to touch us. For who has not stared at the moon and wondered if it too was staring back? Who has not felt that some part of themselves belonged not to earth but to that pale wanderer above? The cup is more than gold, it is longing, hammered into form. It is the human need to reach upward, to bind oneself to something beyond hunger and dust. To drink from it was to taste eternity. To offer it to the moon was to confess that even eternity must be shared. And so it rests now, behind glass, in the dim halls of a museum. Visitors shuffle past, their reflections merging with the faint sheen of its surface. Some pause, leaning closer, caught by the way it glows even in artificial light. Few know the full weight of its history, yet something lingers. Perhaps it is imagination, perhaps it is memory, older than language, carried in all of us. For in that golden curve, in the name it has been given, the cup that drank the moon, there is a truth that requires no words, that the past does not die, that silence can still speak, and that even a vessel buried for centuries can hold the sky within it. And if, on some night when the moon is full, you find yourself standing beneath its light, glance at the nearest pool of water, at the shimmer across its surface. Imagine tilting a golden cup, catching that silver glow. Imagine the moon leaning lower, as if to drink from your hand. You will know then what the Moch believed, what the priest once practiced, what the cup still whispers, that the line between earth and sky is thinner than we think, and that even the moon may thirst for what we offer. The idol that breathed smoke. The idol rests in shadow, yet its story has never truly gone silent. Hidden in the heart of Peru's coastal valleys, in the dust where riverbeds meet the Andes, archaeologists uncovered a golden relic that seemed to shimmer with its own breath. It was not simply a blade, though its edge curved like the crescent of a waning moon. Nor was it only a statue, though a figure was carved upon it, staring outward with unblinking eyes. It was both tool and icon, a sacred tumi, an object that lived at the center of ritual, blood, smoke, and sky. The people who forged it believed it could speak not with words, but with offerings, with fire, with sacrifice. They called upon it to pierce the veil between worlds. Tonight, let us drift into that world. Let us journey along the coastal plains of ancient Peru, where the Chimu and Mocha civilizations built temples that faced the sea, where priests painted their faces with red and black, where music of drums echoed across plazas, and where the tumi glowed in the torchlight of sacred ceremonies. This is the story of the idol that breathed smoke. The tumi was born in fire, gold, hammered from nuggets pulled from riverbeds, was heated until it softened. Skilled hands flattened and curved it, shaping a crescent blade so perfectly balanced that it seemed to bend the light around it. Yet it was not a weapon for battle. The edge was not meant for war. Instead, it was for sacrifice, for offerings to the gods. Above the crescent, artisans placed a figure, sometimes a priest, sometimes a god, often with a headdress flaring like rays of the sun. In the case of the tumi idol, the figure seemed alive, arms outstretched as though commanding both earth and sky. Its eyes, wide and circular, were inlaid with shell or stone, catching the glimmer of firelight. To those who looked upon it, the idol was not simply decoration, it was presence. In the societies of the Mota, and later the Chimu, gold was not wealth in the way we think of it today. It was divine matter, the flesh of the sun itself. To hold gold was to hold a fragment of the heavens. To cut with it was to let the gods taste the blood of earthbound beings. And so the tumi became more than tool, more than idol. It became a bridge. Imagine a temple courtyard at dusk. The Pacific winds sweep in, carrying the scent of salt and desert sand. The adobe walls glow with the fading light, painted once in vivid reds, blues, and yellows. At the center, a raised platform waits, and upon it priests gather. They wear feathered headdresses, their faces painted with ochre. Drums begin to pound, low, steady, like a heartbeat rising from the earth itself. On the altar lies the tumi, its crescent blade reflecting the fire of torches. Smoke curls upward from braziers of burning copal resin, thick and sweet, swirling into the twilight. The people gathered know what is coming. The idol will be lifted. A llama may be sacrificed, or perhaps something greater, a prisoner of war, his life an offering to ensure the rains fall, the crops grow, the sea yields its fish. When the priest takes up the tumi, silence falls. The blade flashes once in the firelight, and then plunges. Blood spills, mixing with earth, and the smoke seems to grow thicker, as though the idol itself exhales. The crowd believes they hear it breathe, believe it drinks the life force rising into the air, carrying it to the gods. Archaeologists who unearthed these idols centuries later noticed the soot on some of them, the blackened edges of gold. It was not simply from burial. These objects had been near flame, near smoke, perhaps used so often in ritual that they carried the residue of centuries of offerings. And so, the name came to them, the idol that breathed smoke, not because it had lungs, but because each time it was raised, each time incense burned and blood spilled, it was as though the idol lived, inhaling sacrifice, exhaling blessing. The Tumi also held another role, one of healing. Among the Kimu, it was believed that gold had power to restore balance. Some accounts suggest that priests may have used tumis in trepanation, surgical cutting into the skull to relieve pain, pressure, or illness. Imagine the awe of a patient seeing the glinting blade above them, not as an instrument of death, but as a tool of salvation. To survive such a ritual was to be touched by the divine, and yet behind this healing, there was always shadow. For just as easily as the Tumi could cut to cure, it could cut to kill. Its dual nature mirrored the dual nature of life itself, creation and destruction, breath and silence, smoke and ash. Centuries passed, the Moche vanished, the Chimu rose, building their capital at Chanchan, a city of mud-brick labyrinths by the sea. The Tumi remained. In festivals it was displayed, sometimes worn at the waist of lords or priests. In burial chambers it was placed beside the dead, a guide for the soul into the next world. For the Chimu believed that death was not an end, but a journey, and the Tumi was the blade that cut the veil between realms. When the Incas came, conquering the Chimu, they too recognized the power of the Tumi. They adopted it, transformed it, made it part of their own rituals. To them, as to those before them, it was not merely an idol, it was an axis, a point where heaven and earth touched. Now imagine it buried, sealed in a tomb, waiting for centuries. The air grows heavy in the chamber. Clay jars filled with offerings crumble, textiles rot, bones turn to dust. Yet the gold Tumi does not decay. It lies there, unchanged, gleaming faintly even in darkness. For gold does not rust, does not weaken. Like the sun it embodies, it endures. When at last the tomb is opened, and light falls upon it again, the Tumi almost seems to stir. The archaeologists lift it carefully, brush the dust from its surface, and for the first time in hundreds of years, smoke no longer clings to its edges. But in the imagination, in the whispers of history, it still breathes. What then is the legacy of this idol? Is it a relic of violence, a memory of sacrifices too terrible to comprehend? Or is it a symbol of devotion, of people reaching toward gods they believed could bless or curse them? Perhaps it is both. The Tumi reminds us that in the ancient world, life and death were not opposites but companions. To feed the earth with blood was to ensure life would return in crops, in rain, in children born. And when the idol breathed smoke, those who watched believed they had glimpsed eternity. Even today, the Tumi is remembered. In Peru, it has become a national symbol, appearing in art, in culture, even in modern medicine. Doctors sometimes use its image as a sign of healing, a curious echo of its ancient use in ritual surgery. Tourists buy replicas, shining souvenirs of an object once feared and revered. Yet the true Tumis, those that were raised in temples and tombs, remain behind glass in museums, silent yet still commanding. Stand before one, and you may feel it. The eyes stare out, wide and unblinking. The crescent gleams, and though the air is clean, though no smoke curls upward, you can almost imagine it, a faint exhale, the breath of a god that lingers still. Thus the idol that breathes smoke speaks across centuries, not in words but in presence, not in sound but in silence filled with memory. It tells us that humanity has always sought connection to forces greater than itself, always offered something of its own life in exchange for meaning, for blessing, for survival, and if you listen closely perhaps you too will hear it breathing. The necklace that captured light. There are objects in this world that seem to hold the very essence of eternity, treasures forged not simply to adorn the living, but to bind them to powers beyond time itself. And among these is one that gleams like a fragment of sunlight fallen to earth, a necklace wrought in gold by hands that knew both craft and mystery, shaped during the days when the Mycenaeans stood at the edge of legend, their palaces rising upon rocky hills, their warriors sailing across dark seas, their myths birthing the seeds of Homer's tales. And it is this collar, wide and heavy, hammered from sheets of radiant gold, that refuses to be forgotten, for it is not merely a piece of jewelry, but a question, a riddle, shimmering across millennia, asking why it was made, who wore it, and what dreams of power or immortality it once promised. Picture it lying deep within the earth, resting in a chamber, untouched by light, for more than 3,000 years, its brilliance dulled by dust, yet never extinguished, as though the sun itself had been captured and sealed within its curves, waiting to be released again by the hand of discovery. When archaeologists first brushed away the soil and glimpsed that familiar yet alien glow, they must have felt that tremor of awe, that sense that the earth itself had just exhaled a memory it had guarded too long. For gold is not just a metal, not merely wealth. It is permanence, incorruptibility, the one element that defies decay, and the Mycenaeans knew this as they shaped it into a collar, meant not for the casual beauty of a day, but for the eternal presence of gods, kings, or the honored dead. The design, wide at the throat and tapering toward the ends, suggests weight and ceremony, a necklace not of fragile decoration but of authority, gleaming against the skin like a second sun. Its surface is not smooth. It is patterned with hammered detail, perhaps spirals that echo the seas the Mycenaeans mastered, perhaps rosettes that capture the eternal bloom of life, perhaps geometric bands that mark the path between order and chaos, and as we gaze upon it now, displayed in the sterile light of a museum, we must remember that once it caught torchlight, once it flashed in the glow of hearths, once it turned every movement of the wearer into a cascade of reflections, drawing eyes and whispers, commanding silence. Who was that wearer? Was it a queen whose name was sung only in palaces, whose beauty was framed by this arc of fire, a woman whose footsteps turned marble floors into stages of power, or was it a priestess who entered the dim sanctuaries, her voice rising with chants as the gold at her throat caught the light of flickering lamps, as if the gods themselves leaned closer to see their reflection in the metal? Or perhaps it lay upon the chest of the dead, placed there by trembling hands that believed this necklace could serve as currency in the afterlife, its light guiding the spirit through darkness, ensuring safe passage into realms unseen. For in Mycenaean belief, as in so many ancient worlds, gold was more than adornment. It was a promise, an amulet, a vessel of eternity. The collar's survival is itself a testament to that promise, for wars have come and gone, empires risen and fallen, yet it endured, hidden beneath the soil, while palaces burned, while invaders plundered, while generations forgot the very names of those who once lived and ruled. Imagine the collar in its prime, when the Mycenaean world was alive with the hum of trade, the clang of bronze, the whispers of scribes scratching linear B into clay. Ships carried tin and copper across the seas. Artisans hammered out weapons and ornaments. Kings feasted in halls where frescoes painted with dolphins and lions glowed by firelight. And somewhere among them gleamed this necklace, heavy at the throat of one chosen, turning human into symbol, mortal into something more. But what stories cling to it? Was it worn at weddings where alliances were sealed between kingdoms, its gleam binding families as much as vows? Was it lifted high in rituals to the sun, offered to gods who demanded light for light? Or was it stolen once, passed as plunder, its meaning shifting with every hand that clasped it until it finally found silence in the grave? And what of its craftsmanship? Was it the work of a single artisan, hunched over in the glow of a small workshop, hammering patiently with tools of stone and bronze? Or was it the product of a tradition, the echo of skills handed down through generations, each master adding a secret, a flourish, until this piece stood as culmination? The Mycenaean goldsmiths knew the art of repoussé, of pressing and hammering designs into metal, of coaxing life from what should be lifeless, and in this necklace their mastery sings across time. Hold your gaze upon it long enough and you begin to feel the strange illusion that it still moves, that light still crawls across its curves like living flame, that it watches you as much as you watch it, for gold has always had that power, to seem animate, to blur the line between object and being. In myths, gods were clothed in gold, not because it was beautiful, but because it was eternal, because it did not tarnish or die, and so to wear it was to borrow a fragment of their divinity. Did the wearer of this collar believe themselves touched by such divinity? Did others? Did eyes lower when they entered, not merely out of respect, but out of awe, as if to look too long upon the golden glow was to risk being blinded by the presence of the divine? And now it sits in silence, behind glass, where children press their noses and scholars take notes, where cameras capture its glow for catalogs. But does anyone truly see it, truly feel the weight of its history, the thousands of lives that passed while it lay hidden? To understand it, one must step not into the museum, but back into the world it knew. A world where kings ruled from citadels like lions atop hills, where warriors boasted of spears and shields, where artisans shaped not only gold but destiny, where belief and power and beauty were one. The necklace that captured light still captures us, because we too are drawn to light, to the gleam of permanence in a world that offers none, and though we can never know with certainty who first wore it or why, we feel the shadow of their presence in its glow, as if their heartbeat once echoed within its curve, as if every glint we see is not just reflection but memory. And perhaps that is the truest purpose of such an object. Not merely to adorn, not merely to command, but to remind, to call across ages that we are all seeking permanence, all trying to hold the light before it slips away, and for a brief moment, when we gaze upon the Mycenaean collar of gold, we too feel as though we have captured it. The island locals dare not speak of. From the moment one glimpses the horizon where the sea meets sky, A certain unease begins to settle, subtle and unspoken, like the last echo of a distant bell. Far to the east of Java, hidden among the turquoise waves and tangled mangroves, lies an island the locals never name aloud, a place that exists more in whispers than maps, more in half-remembered stories than in reality itself. It is a small island, unremarkable in size, with jagged cliffs that rise abruptly from the ocean, as if the land itself had been broken and flung upward by some ancient violent hand. Yet there is something profoundly unsettling about it, something that has caused generations of fishermen, sailors, and islanders to avert their gaze and speak in cautious, careful tones whenever its existence is acknowledged. This island, unnamed yet enduring, harbors secrets that refuse to surface, relics of an ancient past that seem to resist being understood, artifacts that carry whispers of lives long vanished. Approaching the island by boat is a slow, deliberate process, even in calm weather. The currents around it are unpredictable, and sudden gusts of wind sweep through the bay with no apparent source. From the deck one can observe the outline of twisted trees clinging precariously to steep cliffs, their roots entwined in narrow cracks of rock, reaching downward into the shadowy waters below. Birds circle overhead, larger than expected, cawing or screeching, as if warning of something that cannot be named. The waves crash with a peculiar rhythm against the jagged rocks, a sound almost like the island itself is breathing, inhaling and exhaling in a slow, deliberate cadence. Once ashore, the island seems to stretch farther than any map would suggest, a labyrinth of rocky paths, dense undergrowth, and overgrown ruins. Paths that appear to lead to one place often end abruptly, plunging into a cliffside or vanishing into dense mangroves. At first glance, the remnants of human habitation seem almost ordinary, scattered shards of pottery, fragments of walls half hidden by vines, and stone tools that suggest a long-lost civilization. Yet, as one moves deeper, the strangeness becomes more pronounced. Stone carvings, crude but haunting, depict figures with elongated limbs, faces distorted in expressions that could almost be mistaken for anguish or reverence. Moss-covered statues emerge from the undergrowth, their forms suggestive of both animal and human, creatures that seem to straddle the line between this world and another. The locals tell stories, always with a shiver or a glance over the shoulder. They speak of strange lights that appear at night, hovering above the cliffs or flickering from deep within the dense jungle, lights that vanish the instant a witness tries to approach. Sometimes a faint humming can be heard, a low vibration that seems to pass through the chest and bones, though no source is visible. Fishing boats sometimes return with nets shredded, or with fish missing scales, eyes or other small parts, as though some unseen presence is studying them, cataloging or marking them in some unknowable ritual. Families living on nearby islands whisper of travelers who went ashore and never returned, leaving only belongings behind, sometimes scattered across the beach as if set down for inspection. Among the artifacts discovered on the island are fragments of pottery unlike any known style from the region, intricately incised with geometric patterns that seem to shift subtly when observed from different angles, an optical illusion that has led some researchers to suggest a deliberate intention to disorient or communicate in a visual language now lost. Small figurines, sometimes no larger than a hand, have been unearthed, depicting creatures with elongated heads, multiple eyes, or limbs twisted in impossible configurations. These objects are made from materials that defy immediate classification, stones with metallic veins that do not corrode, shells that emit a faint resonance when struck, and organic compounds that remain intact despite centuries of exposure to tropical humidity. In the cliffs of the northern side of the island, large terraces carved into the rock suggest ceremonial or communal spaces, though their function remains a mystery. Circular depressions, lined with smoothed stones, hint at gatherings or rituals, possibly even astronomical observations, as some align closely with solstices or the rising of specific stars, though no written records confirm their purpose. Above one of these terraces, a large stone monolith stands, unadorned yet impossibly balanced, as if deliberately placed to challenge gravity. Its surface is etched with tiny grooves, arranged in a pattern that suggests counting or recording, yet no known numeral system corresponds to it. Further inland, caves open into shadowed chambers, some so large they could contain entire villages within them. The walls of these caves are covered with paintings, faded yet still vivid in color, swirling shapes, humanoid forms with indistinct faces, serpentine creatures that wind across the stone. Occasionally symbols appear that resemble writing, but no one has yet deciphered their meaning. In some chambers, small piles of objects have been found, bones of unknown animals, fragments of pottery, and metallic ornaments, arranged carefully as if in offering. The air inside the caves carries a faint metallic tang, and the temperature remains cool, almost unnaturally so, regardless of the heat outside. Exploration of the island is never simple. The flora seems almost aware, vines and roots closing off paths behind travelers, trees shedding leaves in ways that obscure landmarks, and the undergrowth producing unfamiliar sounds, whispers that could be mistaken for wind, the snapping of branches, or the quiet thrum of some hidden creature. Insects and birds seem to move with a coordinated intelligence, circling intruders, sometimes observing from a distance, yet never allowing themselves to be fully approached. Even experienced archaeologists and explorers speak of a disorienting sense of being watched, as if the island itself is alive, evaluating, judging, or guiding those who enter. At the highest point of the island lies what some have called the heart of the island, a circular plateau surrounded by sheer cliffs, with a single massive tree at its center. Its roots spread across the rock in all directions, entwining with smaller stones and fragments of human activity. Beneath the tree, several stone slabs are arranged in concentric circles, their surfaces engraved with symbols that glow faintly under moonlight. Local legend claims that this site was once a place of communion with spirits, or with beings from beyond the human realm, though no evidence survives beyond the enigmatic carvings. Artifacts recovered from the heart of the island are among the most perplexing. Small figurines, similar to those found elsewhere on the island, have been discovered embedded in resin that does not match any known natural source, as if deliberately preserved. Tiny metallic rings, polished to an impossible sheen, carry inscriptions so fine they are almost invisible to the naked eye. Some objects seem to emit faint sounds when handled, a vibration that resonates deep in the skull, leading to speculation that the island's ancient inhabitants may have possessed knowledge of acoustics, resonance, or some technology now lost. The island's waters are equally mysterious. Pools of fresh water appear in improbable locations, carved into the rock yet perfectly clear, teeming with fish found nowhere else. Certain coastal caves are home to strange bioluminescent organisms, lighting the chambers with an eerie pulsating glow. Tidal patterns behave unpredictably, with currents that seem to follow no discernible logic, shifting in strength and direction at different times of the day and month. Boats that linger too long near the shore sometimes return with strange barnacle formations, or coral growths on the hull, appearing almost instantly, as if the island itself alters reality to preserve its secrets. Even the flora presents enigmas. Trees bear fruit that appears edible but seems to vanish if left uneaten for more than a few hours. Certain flowers bloom only at night, releasing scents that induce vivid dreams or hallucinations. Insects seem unusually intelligent, some capable of mimicking the sounds of human speech or other creatures. Researchers report an uncanny feeling of déjà vu, as if the island itself is replaying moments of history for those who venture too far, folding time in subtle, imperceptible ways. Legends suggest the island was once a hub for a civilization so advanced that its knowledge and culture were deliberately erased. Some speak of visitors from distant lands, or even other worlds, who came to the island to leave gifts, messages, or tools, leaving behind artifacts that defy comprehension. Others claim the island was a sanctuary, a refuge for those escaping persecution, natural disaster, or unseen forces. Yet, no records, oral histories, or maps from surrounding regions provide definitive answers. What remains undeniable is the aura of the island, a presence that persists in whispers among locals and travelers alike. Those who venture there often report dreams of the island after leaving, dreams of staircases leading nowhere, of figures watching silently, of whispers carried on wind and water. Some have returned with sketches, photographs, or fragments of objects that, when examined, reveal markings, textures, or materials not found anywhere else in the world. Others simply vanish, leaving only stories to haunt the imagination. Modern researchers, equipped with satellite imaging, drones, and remote sensing, have revealed more of the island's contours, yet mysteries remain. Certain ruins appear only in infrared scans, paths vanish and reappear. Shadows cast by the cliffs sometimes seem to move independently of the sun. Even when studied in daylight, the island's topography can appear different depending on perspective, a phenomenon that some attribute to optical illusions, tectonic activity, or, more intriguingly, deliberate manipulation by its ancient inhabitants. The island locals dare not speak of continues to guard its secrets with unyielding persistence. Every tree, every stone, every whispering wind seems invested in a purpose beyond human understanding. Its artifacts, from carved stones to enigmatic figurines, from resonant metals to luminescent waters, carry stories that refuse to be told, histories that resist linear narrative, knowledge that evades even the most determined minds. Yet it is precisely this mystery, this enduring sense of the unknown, that draws explorers, historians, and dreamers alike, compelling them to approach, to observe, and to wonder, even at the cost of fear, disorientation, or loss. It is a place of paradox, both inviting and forbidding, tangible yet elusive, real yet existing almost entirely in the imagination and memory of those who dare to acknowledge it. To step onto its shores is to cross a threshold not only of geography, but of perception, to enter a space where time and history fold upon themselves, where the weight of centuries presses against the present, and where the island's silence speaks louder than any spoken word. No one knows what will be discovered next, or whether the island's most profound secrets will ever reveal themselves. Perhaps some knowledge is not meant for human understanding, or perhaps the island itself has chosen guardians who remain hidden among its cliffs, forests, and caves. One thing is certain, the island continues to exist, steadfast and unyielding, a fragment of the world that refuses to be named, catalogued, or fully understood, and in that refusal, it preserves a truth as old as time itself, that some mysteries are meant to endure, silently, hauntingly, and beautifully, for those who dare to dream of what lies beyond the visible horizon. The temple door that defied all hands. The first thing a visitor notices upon approaching the Temple of Apollo is not the grandeur of its columns, nor the symmetry of its architecture, but the door. Not merely an entrance, not merely a threshold between the sacred interior and the sunlit courtyard, but something far stranger, far more elusive. It is a door that has resisted every hand, every force, every attempt to cross its boundary for centuries, a door that seems almost alive in its refusal. Those who study the temple speak of the door with reverence tinged with unease, recounting tales of craftsmen, priests, and travelers who tried to push, pull, or unlock it, only to find that their efforts were in vain, as if the door responded to some invisible criterion, some unknowable measure of worthiness, strength, or intent. The temple itself stands on a plateau, overlooking the gentle curve of a valley, where the hills roll like waves beneath the sun, and the olive groves sway in harmony with the wind. Columns of white marble rise toward the sky, weathered but enduring, their fluted surfaces etched with the passage of centuries. At their center, the doorway stands framed in bronze and aged oak, the metal darkened by oxidation, the wood smooth in some places and oddly untouched in others, as if time itself had passed over it selectively. The door is massive, yet not heavy by the standards of those who study ancient construction. What makes it extraordinary is not its weight, but the way it seems to reject all attempts to open it. Latches, levers, and locks placed over centuries have failed. Ropes, levers, and even teams of men attempting to force it have found themselves powerless. Legends surrounding the door abound. Some claim it was constructed not to admit humans at all, but to seal away knowledge, to protect something sacred from mortal eyes. Others say the door chooses who may pass, opening only for those whose minds are attuned to the temple's mysteries. Priests of Apollo once whispered that the door responds to intention rather than force, that it discerns purity of heart, clarity of thought, or the readiness of a soul to bear the revelations within. Travelers who have stood before it speak of a subtle hum, a vibration that resonates through the bones, felt but not heard, an almost imperceptible pulse that seems to communicate without words. Artifacts found in and around the temple hint at a ritual significance that stretches back to the earliest days of its construction. Fragments of votive offerings, small figurines of humans, animals, and hybrid creatures lie scattered near the entrance, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of weather and handling. Bronze implements, once perhaps instruments of divination, are corroded but intact, inscribed with symbols that defy translation. Small vessels, carefully placed in niches along the temple walls, bear residues of herbs and oils, faint traces of ceremonies conducted in honor of Apollo, or perhaps in attempts to coax the door to reveal its secret. The doorway itself is adorned with carvings, subtle and intricate, almost imperceptible unless observed closely. Faint reliefs of serpents, birds, and human forms twist and coil around one another, forming patterns that seem to shift when viewed from different angles. Some scholars speculate that these carvings are a form of symbolic language, a code to communicate with those who approach the temple. Others suggest that they are protective in nature, warding off those unprepared to enter. The craftsmanship is extraordinary, surpassing even the high standards of classical Greek artisans, suggesting that whoever constructed the door possessed knowledge and skill now lost to time. Attempts to decipher the mechanism of the door have spanned generations. Engineers, historians, and archaeologists have examined it with modern tools, laser scanning, thermal imaging, and mechanical analysis. Yet the door refuses explanation. Hinges appear conventional, yet do not respond in expected ways. Gaps and seams seem to shift subtly, as if the door breathes, expands, and contracts in rhythms aligned with something beyond human perception. Some have proposed magnetic or acoustic properties that influence movement, while others maintain that the key to its opening lies in ritual or knowledge rather than force. Visitors often describe an uncanny sense upon standing before the door. Time seems to slow, shadows lengthen unnaturally, and the wind carries whispers of distant voices, fragments of conversation, laughter, and chants that cannot be placed. Light falls across the carvings in ways that seem deliberate, highlighting certain symbols at particular hours, particularly during solstices or equinoxes. Those who linger too long report a creeping vertigo, a sensation that the space around the door is expanding, contracting, or subtly tilting, altering perception in a way that defies physics. Inside the temple, the air is thick with the scent of history, incense, and something indefinably ancient. Columns stand in symmetrical rows, their capitals adorned with intricate patterns that echo the motifs on the door. Frescoes, faded but still vivid in parts, depict scenes of Apollo in various guises, as healer, as archer, as sun god, and as conduit between the mortal and the divine. Yet, despite the grandeur, the temple remains largely inaccessible. The door continues to guard the inner sanctum, leaving much of its treasures and mysteries shrouded in silence. Artifacts around the doorway suggest that generations of visitors, both ancient and modern, have attempted to communicate with it or negotiate its opening. Small offerings, coins, charms, trinkets, and even manuscripts have been placed in crevices at its base. Occasionally, faint scratches appear on the door's surface, sometimes in straight lines, sometimes in curves that suggest symbols. These markings vanish or shift over time, leaving scholars to speculate whether they are traces of human interaction, natural wear, or some phenomenon tied to the door's inexplicable properties. Local myths speak of the door as living, a guardian spirit or entity bound to the temple by the devotion of generations. Some insist that it was forged with a fragment of divine will, a sliver of Apollo's essence, giving it awareness, choice, and judgment. Others claim the door harbors a secret chamber, a repository of knowledge so profound that it could alter understanding of history, philosophy, and the nature of reality itself. Travelers tell of fleeting glimpses through the cracks, a glimmer of golden light, the shimmer of something moving just beyond perception, but no one has ever fully penetrated its threshold. The surrounding landscape adds to the mystery. Olive groves, once carefully tended, now grow wild in places, their twisted trunks and gnarled roots weaving through fallen stones and broken columns. Shadows stretch in ways that seem unnatural, and birds avoid the immediate area, circling the temple at a distance. At night, the temple seems to resonate with a low frequency, a subtle vibration that some claim can be felt in the chest, in the bones, or even in the teeth. It is a sound, or perhaps a presence, that defies recording, resisting microphones, cameras, and modern instruments. Even the materials used in the door's construction are peculiar. The wood appears to have properties beyond ordinary timber, resisting rot and insect damage despite centuries of exposure. Bronze and iron elements are alloyed in ways that modern metallurgists cannot replicate exactly. Tiny fractures, almost invisible, follow patterns that suggest stress distribution or energy conduction, though no contemporary theory fully accounts for the effect. The door is heavy, yet it moves ever so slightly when touched in specific ways or at precise times, as if acknowledging the presence of those who approach. The temple door that defied all hands has become a locus for legend, attracting seekers of the esoteric, the scholarly, and the brave or foolish. Accounts of near misses, faint glimpses, and inexplicable phenomena continue to accumulate. Some report sudden visions of figures standing in the shadows, faces obscured, arms raised in silent invocation. Others describe feeling sudden cold, a prickling sensation on the skin, or an intense vertigo that passes only after retreating to the temple's outer courtyard. Archaeologists who attempt excavation around the base of the door encounter unusual resistance. Soil seems unusually compacted in some areas, loose in others. Small stones shift as if guided by unseen hands. Roots and vines wrap around tools, disrupting their placement. Equipment sometimes malfunctions inexplicably. Cameras record only darkness. Sensors flicker and die. Compasses spin without reason. Even those familiar with ancient structures find themselves questioning their own perception, wondering if the door exerts influence beyond the physical. The doorway's carvings themselves have drawn the attention of linguists and symbologists. Tiny inscriptions along the edges, nearly imperceptible, appear to change orientation depending on light and perspective. Some suggest that these markings are part of a complex code, a visual language designed to be read not sequentially, but holistically, a kind of perception puzzle. Others speculate that the symbols are protective, designed to ward off intrusion and preserve whatever lies behind the barrier. Explorers often speak of a peculiar rhythm in approaching the door. Steps must be measured, breathing deliberate, and intention clear. Those who attempt to force it or act without preparation report sudden nausea, confusion, or fleeting hallucinations. The door seems sensitive not only to physical action but to psychological state, reacting to fear, arrogance, or even casual curiosity with subtle, though unmistakable, resistance. Occasionally, small objects have been found inexplicably moved or rearranged at the doorway. Offerings left at the base, carefully placed in alignment with celestial events, have been discovered elsewhere on the temple grounds, untouched by human hands. Shadows, sunlight, and moonlight seem to interact with the carvings in precise ways, highlighting certain symbols or figures only at specific times of year, reinforcing the notion that the doorway may operate on principles that intertwine geometry, astronomy, and ritual. Attempts to document the door in detail using modern technology, drones, LiDAR scanning, photogrammetry yield tantalizing yet incomplete results. Slight discrepancies between digital models and actual observation suggest that the doorway may alter its geometry in ways imperceptible to the eye yet detectable through long observation, a shifting threshold that defies static recording. Some speculate that the door represents a form of ancient engineering or metaphysical knowledge lost to time, blending material science with the unseen, the spiritual, or the symbolic. Visitors often leave with a profound sense of awe and humility. The door is not merely a barrier, but a statement, a monument to the limits of human understanding and the persistence of mystery. The Temple of Apollo, while majestic, serves as a reminder that not all knowledge is meant to be seized, that some thresholds are to be approached with respect, patience, and wonder. Local traditions continue to honor the door. On rare occasions, rituals are performed, offerings of olive oil, incense, or small carved figurines, aligned with solstices, eclipses, or other celestial events. Participants report a sense of connection, a subtle shift in perception, and occasionally fleeting glimpses of light or shadow beyond the doorway. No one claims to have fully passed through, yet these ceremonies reinforce the notion that the door is more than physical, that it interacts with intention, consciousness, and devotion. Artifacts in the vicinity, from small bronze mirrors to intricately carved votive figures, suggest that the doorway was central to the spiritual and social life of the temple. Broken fragments of ceremonial vessels, partially eroded inscriptions, and scattered ritual objects indicate generations of worshippers who approached, offered, and departed, leaving their mark without ever fully penetrating the mystery. Even today, the doorway continues to inspire inquiry, speculation, and exploration. Scholars debate whether it represents lost technology, metaphysical phenomena, or symbolic storytelling frozen in time. Travelers and pilgrims describe the palpable weight of history, the subtle presence of the unseen, and the enduring question: what lies beyond the threshold that no hand has yet opened? The temple door that defied all hands remains steadfast, silent, and unyielding. It guards the sacred interior, protects secrets of millennia, and challenges every assumption about the limits of human perception. To approach it is to confront not only a physical barrier, but the vast, uncharted territory of mystery itself, a place where art, ritual, intention, and perhaps something beyond converge in a single extraordinary threshold. No account can capture its entirety. No force can breach it. No hand, no mind, no tool has yet prevailed. And so it stands, eternal and enigmatic, a monument to both the ingenuity and the humility of humanity, a testament to the enduring allure of mystery and an invitation to wonder at the unseen, the unmeasured, and the unknowable. The coins buried beneath the waves. Beneath the shimmering surface of the Mediterranean Sea, where sunlight dances through gentle ripples and currents hum a constant low rhythm, lie countless treasures hidden from the gaze of the world above. Among these treasures are the coins buried beneath the waves, a scattered collection of Roman currency lost to the sea over centuries of commerce, conquest, and catastrophe. Unlike treasures preserved in stone or marble, these coins exist in a delicate liminal space, suspended between the known and the unknown, resting on sandy seabeds, clinging to submerged rocks, and sometimes hidden within the wreckage of ships that once traversed the Mediterranean's vast expanse. The sea, ever-changing yet eternally present, cradles them, preserves them, and slowly transforms them into something simultaneously ancient and mysterious, a silent archive of an empire that once ruled the known world. The story of these coins begins in bustling Roman ports, in cities and towns where merchants, soldiers, and officials conducted the business of daily life. Coins of bronze, silver, and occasionally gold circulated as tokens of trade, reward, and wealth. They were small, portable, and utilitarian, yet they bore the imprint of emperors, gods, and victories. Faces of rulers gazed out from their surfaces, surrounded by inscriptions that proclaimed lineage, power, and divine favor. Symbols, numbers, and letters, carved in relief, served not only as markers of value but also as a record of the state's authority. Each coin a miniature messenger of empire. These coins traveled widely, crossing land and sea, passing from hand to hand, exchanged in marketplaces, taverns, and military camps. Yet the Mediterranean was not always a gentle custodian. Storms, piracy, shipwrecks, and miscalculation ensured that countless coins never reached their intended destinations. Shipwrecks, often catastrophic, scattered their cargoes across the seabed, sometimes burying coins beneath layers of sand, silt, and marine growth. Over time, the coins settled into their new resting places, where currents sculpted the sand around them, and marine life claimed them as part of the underwater ecosystem. Tiny barnacles and corals grew over the edges of the coins, subtly altering their surfaces and lending them a strange, organic beauty. Rust and mineralization in the bronze, the soft patina on the silver, and the occasional sparkle of gold fragments caught by light from above, transformed these mundane objects into relics that capture the imagination. Divers and underwater archaeologists who explore these submerged sites often describe the sensation of encountering a coin-laden seabed as almost otherworldly. Sand shifts beneath their movements, dislodging centuries-old artifacts in gentle cascades that reveal patterns of trade, loss, and human ambition. Coins lie in clusters, suggesting a container or purse once broken apart by violent currents, or perhaps deliberately hidden and never recovered. Each coin, though small and seemingly simple, carries a story: the hand that minted it, the journey it undertook, the fate that sent it into the waves. Their inscriptions, though partially worn by abrasion and corrosion, whisper fragments of history to those willing to observe closely. The coins themselves display incredible variation. Bronze sestertii are thick and heavy, often depicting emperors in profile, seated on thrones, or astride horses in scenes of martial triumph. Silver denarii, more delicate and valued, show gods and goddesses in various forms: Mars with spear in hand, Venus reclining with elegance, Jupiter enthroned among clouds. Occasional aurae, rarer gold coins, gleam faintly beneath the water, their surfaces subtly dulled but still radiant, evidence of wealth transported for commerce, tribute, or ceremonial purposes. Each coin, regardless of material, carries markings of imperial ambition, symbols of religious devotion, and reminders of daily life in an empire that spanned continents. Shipwrecks themselves, often the resting places of these coins, are fascinating studies in history and geography. Roman merchant vessels traversed predictable but dangerous routes across the Mediterranean, carrying everything from olive oil and wine to ceramics, weapons, and currency. A sudden storm could drive a ship onto hidden reefs, while pirates or enemy fleets might overwhelm it, sending cargo and crew alike to watery graves. In these moments, coins became separated from their owners, scattered across the seabed, sometimes tumbling into crevices in rocky outcroppings or hidden within the remains of cargo holds. Their dispersal is rarely uniform. Some areas show heavy concentrations, as if the coins themselves resisted scattering, while others show sparse individual specimens, slowly migrating with currents over centuries. The environment itself plays a role in the coin's transformation. Salt water erodes surfaces, smooths edges, and darkens inscriptions, yet simultaneously protects certain details beneath layers of mineralization. Algae, barnacles, and small sea creatures colonize the coins, creating miniature ecosystems that are both biological and historical in significance. Divers note that disturbing these coins releases a faint metallic scent, mingled with the brine of the sea, an olfactory reminder of the intersection between human activity and natural processes over time. Occasionally, entire hoards are discovered, providing rare insights into Roman economy and personal wealth. Such collections suggest deliberate concealment. Merchants, soldiers, or officials may have hidden coins in containers, hoping to recover them later, only for fate to intervene. The careful arrangement of these coins within pottery, boxes, or other vessels hints at a degree of planning and foresight, a hope that wealth could be preserved despite the unpredictability of life and nature. When uncovered, these hoards offer snapshots of trade routes, preferred denominations, and even the political landscape, as coins often reflect the reigns of specific emperors or regional variations in minting. Historical documentation sometimes corroborates these finds. Ancient accounts describe shipwrecks, lost cargoes, and treasure recovered from the Mediterranean. Though the vast majority of coins remain hidden, their stories untold. Written records note the importance of currency in military logistics, taxation, and trade, reinforcing the significance of each coin, not just as an object, but as a symbol of empire, governance, and the reach of Roman civilization. Coins that now lie beneath the waves were once instruments of power, facilitating commerce, enforcing hierarchy, and spreading imagery that reinforced loyalty and obedience. The act of recovering these coins is delicate, requiring patience, precision, and respect for both history and environment. Modern archaeology employs a combination of diving, sonar mapping, and careful sifting to avoid disturbing fragile contexts. Even a single coin, lifted from the seabed, can reveal information about minting techniques, regional variations, and historical circulation patterns. Conservation then ensures that the coin's details, its inscriptions, imagery, and material integrity are preserved for future study, though complete restoration is rare, as the patina itself carries valuable historical information. Collectors and museums value these coins not only for their beauty, but also for their narratives. Each coin offers a tangible connection to a specific moment in Roman history, bridging the distance of centuries and providing evidence of the daily lives of people who lived, worked, and navigated the vast Mediterranean world. From the smallest bronze sestertius to the most carefully struck aureus, every piece is a messenger from a lost world, telling of trade, warfare, economy, devotion, and artistry. Legends surrounding the coins buried beneath the waves abound. Some suggest that certain coins carry curses, meant to protect hoards or punish thieves. Others claim that coins from shipwrecks bear the last impressions of their owners' hopes and fears, a psychic residue left in metal that persists underwater. Fishermen and divers have told stories of strange glimmers in the sand, of treasures that seem to appear and vanish with the tide, and of currents that guide explorers to particularly rich concentrations, as if the sea itself remembers and reveals these coins to those who respect it. Beyond their material and historical significance, these coins offer profound reflection on the impermanence and continuity of human endeavor. Coins minted with purpose, intended for trade or tribute, lost through accident or circumstance, now rest beneath waves that have witnessed countless generations. They are both fragile and enduring, corroded yet precious, fleeting in the moment of loss and eternal in the slow passage of time. The seabed itself becomes a narrative canvas, where scattered coins form patterns influenced by natural forces, currents, and shipwreck dynamics. Archaeologists often map these patterns, interpreting clusters and dispersals to reconstruct events of the past, a storm's fury, a vessel's collapse, or the careful concealment of valuables. Even centuries later, the coins communicate, not with words but with presence, offering insights into human activity and the dialogue between civilization and nature. The coins buried beneath the waves thus represent more than wealth lost. They are fragments of memory, markers of identity, and evidence of an empire's reach and vulnerability. Each coin carries stories of merchants' negotiations, soldiers' pay, citizens' trade, and the inevitability of nature's reclaiming. Sunlight filtering through the water, tides shaping the sand, and currents moving coins subtly across the seabed are acts of storytelling in themselves, reshaping history continuously, gently, and without pause. Exploration of these submerged treasures remains ongoing. Technological advances, such as high-resolution mapping, remote-operated vehicles, and non-invasive excavation techniques, allow archaeologists to uncover coins with minimal disturbance, preserving their context while unlocking information previously inaccessible. Each discovery feeds scholarship, museum collections, and public imagination, bridging millennia with a glint of metal, a hint of design, or the imprint of an emperor's visage. Even as some coins are recovered, countless others remain hidden, waiting in sediment, entangled in wreckage, or perched precariously on underwater ledges. For those who study, dive, or imagine them, the coins buried beneath the waves evoke the vast interconnected history of the Mediterranean, a history defined by commerce, conquest, artistry, and human ambition. They remind us that the past is never entirely lost, that traces endure, sometimes in places we cannot see, yet always waiting to be discovered, understood, and felt. The coin's passage from mint to sea demonstrates both fragility and resilience. They have endured storms, centuries of submersion, chemical reactions in water, and biological colonization. Yet they also preserve details, faces, inscriptions, and symbols that allow historians to reconstruct trade networks, political allegiances, and cultural priorities. They are simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary. Small in size, yet monumental in significance, lost to the sea, but preserved in human memory and scholarly study. The coins buried beneath the waves continue to inspire wonder, curiosity, and reflection. They are a reminder of the impermanence of material wealth, the unpredictability of history, and the beauty of objects shaped by human hands and natural forces alike. Each coin recovered, each observation made, each story told about these submerged relics reinforces the enduring connection between humanity and the vast mysterious waters that have claimed and preserved so much of our shared past. In contemplating the coins buried beneath the waves, one comes to appreciate the delicate interplay between creation and loss, action and consequence, human endeavor and nature's reclamation. These coins, though silent and small, speak across centuries, reminding us that history is not only written on parchment, stone, or walls, but also scattered across the world in the most unexpected places, waiting for those who seek it to uncover, interpret, and marvel. The coins rest quietly beneath the waves, endlessly reshaped by tides and currents, each one a testament to the life it once touched, the hands that spent it, and the empire that produced it. They are remnants of transactions, gestures, and intentions, preserved in a liquid world where time moves differently, where loss and preservation coexist in perpetual balance. The coins buried beneath the waves are an invitation to look closer, to dive deeper, and to listen to the whispers of an empire long vanished yet eternally present beneath the Mediterranean's rolling surface. And so they remain, innumerable yet intimate, ordinary yet extraordinary, lost yet found again in imagination, study, and the glimmering light that plays upon the seabed, calling the observer to consider not only the coins themselves but the world from which they came, and the oceans that have held them safely for millennia, waiting for those who will seek, see, and understand their enduring story. The mansion lost to centuries. The Roman soldier's villa, now known only as the mansion lost to centuries, sits quietly among rolling hills in central Italy. its location known to scholars but largely forgotten by the casual traveler. Even today, as one approaches the site, there is a sense of hushed time, as though the earth itself remembers the lives that once filled this space. The villa was not a fortress, not a palace, but a residence. A home for a man who had fought in distant campaigns and returned with rank, medals, and a lifetime of experiences encoded in memory, medals, and stories. It is said that he chose this secluded location for both its beauty and its isolation, overlooking fertile plains where olives and vineyards once thrived, and tucked away enough to avoid the constant traffic of city life, far enough from Rome to allow reflection, planning, and the quiet accumulation of wealth in a domestic setting. The villa's remains, partially buried under centuries of soil, vegetation, and neglect, hint at a life of disciplined order and meticulous design. Terracotta roof tiles, once red and vibrant, now lie scattered and broken, their colors faded by decades of sun and rain. Marble fragments peek through the earth, column bases, decorative reliefs, and the occasional mosaic floor, still retaining the geometric precision and muted elegance of Roman craftsmanship. The layout suggests a careful balance between public and private spaces, between areas intended for reception of honored guests and rooms reserved for solitude, reflection, and personal ceremony. Approaching the villa, one notices immediately the sense of enclosure created by low walls and gardens, now overgrown but still discernible. Paths once lined with cypress trees are interrupted by root and stone, yet their original geometry remains clear to a trained eye. The gardens themselves were designed not only for beauty but also for reflection, combining native flora with imported plants, evidence of a well-traveled owner who valued the exotic and the familiar alike. Shrubs and vines, wild now, hint at carefully tended hedges of the past. Fragrant herbs, rosemary, thyme, and lavender, still cling stubbornly to the soil, their survival a testament to resilience as much as design. Inside, the villa's primary rooms reveal an even deeper sense of mystery. The atrium, once the heart of the house, opens onto a space where frescoes still cling to walls, their pigments faded, yet still evocative. Scenes of battle, myth, and domestic life interweave. Soldiers on horseback, gods in repose, and daily Roman routines, all painted with skill that suggests a master artist or a workshop well attuned to the patron's tastes. The peristyle, a central courtyard surrounded by columns, still maintains its symmetry, though erosion and neglect have softened its edges. Shadows move differently here, lengthening over carved stones, shifting across mosaics in ways that suggest time itself lingers longer, or perhaps that the villa exists slightly out of phase with the modern world. Artifacts scattered across the floors tell of everyday life, of ritual, and of status. Fragments of amphorae, their necks chipped or their bodies cracked, suggest storage of wine, oil, or grains, each vessel once a utilitarian object, now transformed into a silent witness. Bronze implements, long oxidized, hint at both domestic and ceremonial functions. Knives, pins, small statuettes, and possibly ritual instruments. Coins, stamped with the faces of emperors, lie hidden in crevices, silent echoes of trade, economy, and personal fortune. Occasionally, a coin is found in a location impossible to explain by accident, suggesting deliberate placement, perhaps as a votive or as a measure of wealth preserved for the afterlife. The villa's architecture itself resists full comprehension. Vaults and arches, partially collapsed, indicate knowledge of engineering that allowed for large open spaces without support beams. Floors, uneven and partially buried, conceal underlayers of mosaic and stonework that suggest multiple phases of construction, renovation, and expansion. Some chambers appear to have been sealed deliberately, their entrances blocked with masonry and debris, leaving curious gaps that hint at secret storage, hidden rituals, or even rooms intended to isolate valuable objects from view. Legends of the villa abound. Local lore speaks of treasures hidden in secret chambers, of inscriptions that record victories and misdeeds alike, and of artifacts imbued with meaning beyond the mundane. Scholars have debated the identity of the villa's owner, a decorated soldier, a minor magistrate, or perhaps someone whose rank was amplified through patronage, gifts from commanders, and careful marriage alliances. Whatever the truth, the mansion reflects a blend of personal pride, military accomplishment, and domestic elegance captured in stone, wood, and tile. Excavation of the site has been slow and cautious. Archaeologists must contend not only with natural decay, but also with centuries of disturbance, previous digs, looting, and the relentless encroachment of vegetation. Fragile mosaics require painstaking brushing. Walls must be supported with temporary scaffolding to prevent collapse. Despite these challenges, discoveries continue. Small boxes containing rings and jewelry, iron and bronze utensils, and fragments of scrolls preserved in niches or sealed spaces. Every artifact adds a layer of narrative, a glimpse into the life of the soldier, his family, and the household that once thrived here. The villa also speaks of ritual practice. Certain rooms contain traces of offerings, ashes in basins, traces of oil on stone surfaces, and arrangements of small figurines that suggest veneration of gods, ancestors, or perhaps spirits associated with the household. These traces hint at a blending of public Roman religion and private devotion, the intimate practice of faith interwoven with the display of status and adherence to cultural norms. Natural phenomena interact strangely with the villa. Sunlight entering the peristyle casts shifting patterns across mosaics and frescoes, sometimes illuminating parts of walls that seem otherwise hidden. On cloudy days, shadows linger in ways that suggest depth where none exists, forming optical illusions that challenge perception. Even the sound carries differently here. Footsteps echo faintly across collapsed floors. Wind through the ruins produces tones reminiscent of distant instruments or whispered voices, and water dripping from damaged conduits seems to follow unpredictable paths, hinting at the villa's former plumbing systems and the meticulous engineering that supported daily life. Visitors often remark on the villa's uncanny sense of presence. Though abandoned, the rooms feel inhabited. The air carries an almost tactile memory of activity. Footsteps, conversations, laughter, and the quiet of study or meditation. Furniture, long decayed, leaves impressions in floors or on walls, and patterns of wear in mosaics suggest habitual movement, daily routines, and repeated actions whose rhythm persists in echoes. Archaeological analysis has revealed more. Under layers of debris, small inscriptions scratched into walls or stones hint at names, events, or messages left for posterity. Some are mundane, perhaps graffiti by laborers. Others seem deliberate, ritualistic, or protective, intended to guard the villa's secrets or communicate with the unseen. Symbols repeated across rooms suggest a system of marking, perhaps to denote ownership, lineage, or the significance of particular spaces within the household. The villa's location itself contributes to its mystery. Surrounded by hills, forests, and occasional streams, it was both secluded and fertile, an ideal location for agriculture, security, and contemplation. Terraces once supported vineyards, orchards, and gardens, arranged to complement the villa's architecture and the views across the landscape. Even now, faint terraces can be discerned through careful observation, suggesting sophisticated planning and an intimate understanding of both land and climate. Over time, the villa fell into ruin, abandoned for reasons unknown. Wars, plagues, changing political landscapes, or the death of its owner could all have contributed. Yet the house resists total erasure. Its structure, even in decay, maintains a coherence, a sense of order and intentionality that defies complete understanding. Modern visitors describe a sense of walking through living history, where the past presses subtly against the present, and the line between what was and what is blurs. Artifacts recovered from the site continue to be studied meticulously. Coins, pottery, tools, and jewelry provide insight into trade, social hierarchy, and daily life. Frescoes are analyzed for pigments and technique, revealing connections to workshops and artistic trends across the Roman world. Fragments of wall inscriptions are painstakingly reconstructed, offering tantalizing hints of ownership, events, and even personal reflections, though much remains illegible or lost to time. The villa's endurance also hints at advanced construction techniques. Foundations reveal careful stone placement. Walls demonstrate understanding of weight distribution and thermal insulation. Drainage systems hint at sophisticated engineering that allowed the villa to thrive in its environment for decades. Even minor details, such as the placement of windows and orientation of rooms, reveal attention to sunlight, wind, and view, suggesting that the villa was designed as a holistic experience, blending comfort, aesthetics, and practicality. The mansion lost to centuries thus remains more than a ruin. It is a repository of human experience, triumph and defeat, ritual and daily routine, artistry and engineering. Every stone, every shard of pottery, every fragment of fresco contributes to a story that spans centuries, a story of one man's life and legacy echoed in stone and soil. To walk among its remains is to encounter history as living, to sense the echoes of footsteps long silent, the whispers of voices long gone, and the enduring presence of a home that refuses to be forgotten. Even as modernity encroaches, with roads, agriculture, and towns spreading outward, the villa maintains its mystery. Excavations, preservation, and study continue. Yet the mansion lost to centuries retains an aura of untouchable past. It is a place where time slows, where one confronts not only the physical remnants of a Roman soldier's life, but also the intangible resonance of history itself, a story preserved in stone, bronze, and memory, a silent testament to lives lived, decisions made, and a world that endures in fragments, shadows, and echoes for those willing to see, hear, and imagine. The villa, in its quiet decay, continues to guard its secrets, defying casual observation and deliberate scrutiny alike. It is at once a home, a monument, and a challenge, a preserved fragment of Roman life that insists upon attention, respect, and wonder. Each artifact recovered, Each fresco traced, each mosaic studied, brings the observer closer, yet the villa's ultimate story remains partially hidden, a mystery left for the centuries to interpret, appreciate, and reimagine. Even now, standing among its ruins, one senses the layers of life and history pressing softly but insistently against the present. The mansion lost to centuries is not merely a building, it is an experience, an encounter with time itself, a place where the past whispers and those who listen may glimpse the eternal interplay of memory, artistry, and human presence. And so it remains, silent yet eloquent, lost yet enduring. A Roman villa that invites the imagination to wander, the mind to ponder, and the heart to feel the weight and wonder of centuries captured in stone, tile, and shadow. The crocodile stone that gazed skyward. Amid the arid plains and scattered sands of Egypt, where the Nile winds its eternal path through a landscape both ancient and unyielding, stands a monument unlike any other, the crocodile stone that gazed skyward. It is a massive, enigmatic formation carved into the likeness of a crocodile, resting immobile on the desert floor, yet imbued with a sense of silent awareness, as if its stony eyes have observed the centuries pass and recorded the subtle rhythms of a civilization that has risen, flourished, and endured along the riverbanks. Weathered by time and bleached by sun, the crocodile stone looms with a quiet authority, a sentinel that has watched the heavens, the sand, and the people with an unbroken gaze, its contours suggesting both form and intention, nature and craftsmanship intertwined in ways that challenge understanding. Scholars and archaeologists who have approached the crocodile stone speak of a profound feeling that accompanies its presence, a blend of awe, unease, and wonder. Unlike the pyramids or the temples, whose grandeur is immediately evident in scale and symmetry, the crocodile stone exerts its power subtly. Its shape is unmistakably reptilian, a wide, flattened body, sinuous lines hinting at a tail, a broad head with features rendered in low relief, and eyes carved with an intentional focus that seems almost lifelike. Yet the stone is no mere replica of nature. There is something in its proportions, its orientation, and its placement that hints at purpose, ritual, or celestial alignment, a connection to the sky above that is at once tangible and mysterious. The stone's origins are difficult to trace. Local legends suggest it may have been erected to honor Sobek, the crocodile god of fertility, military prowess, and the Nile itself. In Egyptian mythology, Sobek was both revered and feared, embodying the life-giving and destructive powers of the river. The crocodile stone may have been intended as a guardian, a marker of sacred territory, or even a celestial instrument, its head angled toward specific points of the sky to correspond with solstices, equinoxes, or the movements of the Nile in its seasonal flood. Unlike temple walls etched with hieroglyphs or obelisks designed to commemorate kings, the crocodile stone is silent, speaking in form rather than inscription, in presence rather than narrative, and in stone rather than words. Over millennia, the crocodile stone has witnessed events both monumental and mundane. Sandstorms sweep across its back, gradually eroding fine details while leaving the overall form intact. The heat of day and the chill of night imprint cycles of expansion and contraction into the stone, subtle reminders of the desert's relentless rhythms. Travelers, traders, and pilgrims have passed it on foot or by river, many unaware of its significance, others perhaps sensing a lingering sacredness in its gaze. The Nile's proximity has also shaped the stone's story. As water levels rose and fell, as silt and sand shifted, the crocodile stone has endured the slow encroachment of nature, a fixed presence in an otherwise ever-changing world. Archaeological surveys reveal that the stone's location is not arbitrary. Situated on a slight elevation, the crocodile stone commands a view over a stretch of desert that may have served as a route for ritual processions or territorial boundaries. Its head tilts gently upward, aligning in ways that suggest observation of celestial bodies, as though its gaze were intended to track the sun, moon, or stars across the sky. Some theories propose that it was a marker of agricultural cycles, guiding early Egyptians in predicting inundations of the Nile, critical to sustaining the communities that clustered along its fertile banks. Yet despite these hypotheses, definitive evidence remains elusive, leaving the stone shrouded in layers of speculation, study, and awe. The craftsmanship of the crocodile stone also invites reflection. Carved directly from local limestone, its creation would have required skill, patience, and an intimate knowledge of the material. The body's contours are smooth, suggesting deliberate shaping with tools of stone, copper, or bronze, while the eyes, though simple in design, achieve a lifelike intensity that belies the absence of elaborate detail. Unlike monuments dedicated to kings or deities, this form evokes a living creature, blending naturalistic representation with abstract suggestion, a synthesis of observation, symbolism, and intention that continues to intrigue those who study it. Legends surrounding the stone abound among local communities. Some say the crocodile stone moves its gaze at night, following travelers or marking celestial events. Others claim that it houses the spirit of a protective deity, ensuring safe passage along nearby river routes or warning of approaching danger. Ancient texts are ambiguous, offering references to crocodiles in ritual and myth, but never specifying a singular stone formation. The mystery of its meaning has inspired generations of historians, travelers, and dreamers, all drawn to the subtle power of a monument that communicates without words, that watches without life, yet feels undeniably present. Explorations of the crocodile stone have uncovered subtle signs of human interaction over time. Shallow depressions and marks on its surface suggest offerings or ceremonial acts, perhaps small libations, carvings, or symbols left by those who understood its sacred significance. Fragments of pottery, bits of faience, and small votive objects have been found nearby, hinting at ritual practice that may have persisted for centuries. These findings underscore the notion that the stone was more than a representation; it was a focal point for human attention, reverence, and engagement, a physical conduit linking earth, water, and sky. The environment surrounding the crocodile stone adds to its enigmatic presence. Desert winds carry fine sand across its surface, sometimes uncovering hidden details, sometimes concealing them entirely. During rare rainfall, water pools in shallow depressions along its back, reflecting the sky and creating ephemeral patterns that seem almost intentional, as if the stone itself participates in cycles of observation and reflection. At dawn and dusk, shadows shift along its contours, lending a sense of movement, of life paused, yet suggested, reinforcing the perception that the stone is not merely a static object but a sentinel of the desert, attuned to time and space in ways that human eyes can only partially comprehend. Its relationship to the Nile further enriches its narrative. The river, source of life and commerce for millennia, may have influenced the stone's placement. Seasonal inundations would have altered the surrounding landscape, bringing water, silt, and vegetation to its base, periodically changing its context while leaving the form intact. Fishermen, farmers, and travelers navigating these shifts would have encountered the stone repeatedly, embedding it in collective memory and local lore. Its continued presence despite environmental fluctuations underscores a resilience both physical and symbolic, a reminder of continuity amid change. Modern archaeology has sought to understand the crocodile stone through careful measurement, comparison with similar artifacts, and examination of its geological context. Studies of erosion patterns, tool marks, and alignment suggest intentionality, even as debates continue over whether the stone's creators intended it as a ritual object, a navigational marker, or an emblem of cosmic observation. Some scholars draw parallels with other animal-shaped monuments across Egypt and the broader Near East, noting the symbolic importance of animals in cosmology, mythology, and governance. The crocodile, in particular, represents a duality, powerful, dangerous, yet intimately tied to the sustenance of life along the Nile. The crocodile stone has survived not only the ravages of time, but also the curiosity, reverence, and sometimes inadvertent damage of humans. Its enduring presence continues to attract attention from researchers, travelers, and photographers, each drawn to the aura of antiquity and mystery. When viewed from different angles, the stone's proportions shift subtly, creating impressions of motion or alertness, a reminder that perception shapes understanding as much as observation itself. Those who spend hours in its presence often report a sense of calm, focus, or even unease, a psychological response to the stone's lifelike attributes and the centuries it has silently witnessed. Artistic representations of crocodiles in Egyptian culture, from temple carvings to jewelry and amulets, provide some context but cannot fully explain the singularity of the crocodile stone. It is larger, more enduring, and more deliberate in its placement than typical representations. Its gaze, directed skyward, reinforces a connection with celestial cycles, seasonal patterns, or divine observation, suggesting that its creators understood the interplay between earthly existence and cosmic forces. In this sense, the stone becomes more than sculpture; it is a meeting point of geology, artistry, religion, and astronomy. Over centuries, shifting sands and local changes have at times obscured the stone, making it nearly invisible from certain vantage points. Travelers relying on oral directions or local knowledge would have recognized it as a landmark, a point of reference, or a spiritual guidepost. Its visibility varies with season, light, and landscape, emphasizing its dynamic relationship with the environment. The crocodile stone is thus both permanent and impermanent, ever-changing in perception while steadfast in presence. The crocodile stone's continued study offers insights into broader questions of ancient Egyptian life, ritual practice, and environmental interaction. Its orientation, relation to celestial events, and proximity to the Nile suggest deliberate design choices informed by practical, spiritual, and observational considerations. The artisans who shaped it, the communities that revered it, and the generations that preserved or altered it have all contributed to a layered history encoded in stone, context, and myth. Even today, the stone challenges modern sensibilities. Scientists and tourists alike grapple with the tension between its lifelike presence and its inanimate reality. The precise meaning of the crocodile stone may never be fully known, yet its impact is undeniable. It commands attention, inspires reflection, and invites speculation. Its simple yet powerful form bridges human imagination, natural forces, and the enduring presence of history, offering a tangible connection to a world both familiar and unfathomable. As the sun rises over the desert horizon, casting long shadows across the sand, the crocodile stone remains still, gazing skyward with an unwavering eye. Its surface bears the marks of centuries, erosion, human interaction, and the slow accumulation of time's subtle effects. Yet it endures, a sentinel, a monument, and a reminder that even in a landscape dominated by change, permanence can be achieved through vision, reverence, and craftsmanship. To stand before the crocodile stone is to confront the duality of existence, the fleeting nature of human life contrasted with the endurance of material creation, the mystery of intention versus the clarity of form, the power of imagination in interpreting what the ancients left behind. It is a moment that transcends simple observation, inviting contemplation of the past, reflection on the present, and wonder at the enduring capacity of human culture to shape the world around it. In the end, the crocodile stone that gazed skyward is more than limestone carved into a recognizable form. It is a silent narrative, a keeper of stories, a witness to centuries of civilization, and a connection between earth and sky, human and divine, past and present. Its gaze, fixed yet eternal, invites all who encounter it to pause, observe and imagine, offering a bridge across time, a monument to endurance, and a reminder that even in stillness, there is life, presence and meaning. The city that departed without a trace. Nestled amid the rugged hills and jagged plateaus of eastern Turkey, lies a city that whispers of lives once lived, yet now remains an enigma, the city that departed without a trace. Its ruins spread across the landscape like scattered memories frozen in stone, walls and foundations eroded by centuries of wind, rain, and time, yet stubbornly standing as testament to a civilization that vanished almost without warning. Walking through its remnants, one is immediately struck by the eerie harmony of the structures. Houses aligned with precision along narrow streets, public squares framed by decayed columns, stairways leading to doorways that open only onto emptiness. The city is both familiar and alien, as if it had once hummed with life, yet now exists in a suspended state, a ghostly echo of the past. Archaeologists who first mapped the site marveled at the city's sophistication. Though its precise origins remain uncertain, layers of occupation suggest that it had been inhabited for centuries, perhaps by a thriving community that maintained trade, agriculture, and ritual practices in ways that were advanced for its era. The architecture hints at influences from Hittite, Roman, and Byzantine traditions, suggesting that the city may have been a crossroads of cultures, absorbing innovations and aesthetics from surrounding regions. Stone houses bear remnants of plaster and painted frescoes, their colors faded yet still discernible, hinting at an artistic sensibility and a reverence for beauty that transcended mere function. What renders the city truly enigmatic, however, is the suddenness of its abandonment. Unlike other ancient sites, where decline appears gradual due to war, famine, or shifting political powers, this city seems to have emptied in a manner that defies conventional explanation. Streets are littered with objects left behind, cooking pots still on hearths, personal belongings abandoned in haste, and even partially eaten meals left on tables. Doors remain open as if awaiting the return of their occupants, and footprints worn into soft soil appear frozen in time. There is no evidence of a battle, a catastrophic earthquake, or an epidemic that could account for the mass departure, leaving researchers to speculate, hypothesize, and sometimes wonder if the city's residents left of their own volition for reasons now lost to history. The city's layout adds layers of intrigue to its story. Main thoroughfares intersect at carefully planned angles, connecting residential areas to marketplaces, temples, and administrative buildings. Wells and cisterns suggest careful water management, and granaries hint at agricultural abundance sufficient to sustain a large population. The precision with which the city was designed reflects a highly organized society, one capable of engineering, governance, and social cohesion. Scholars have examined the alignment of certain structures with celestial events, noting that some buildings cast specific shadows during solstices or equinoxes, indicating that the inhabitants possessed astronomical knowledge integrated into their urban planning. Among the most haunting aspects of the city are the sacred spaces. Temples, shrines, and ritual altars are scattered throughout the ruins, each bearing carvings, reliefs, or inscriptions that hint at the spiritual life of its citizens. Statues of deities, now weathered and broken, still emanate a sense of watchfulness, as though the divine had observed the sudden disappearance of the human population. Small votive offerings discovered near temple entrances, figurines, pottery shards, and beads suggest rituals designed to ensure prosperity, fertility, or protection. Yet these sacred practices did not prevent the city's enigmatic evacuation, leaving a lingering sense of unanswered questions and unfulfilled prayers. Local legends preserve fragments of memory regarding the city's mysterious past. Some stories speak of a plague that came not from illness but from the land itself, a creeping malaise that forced people to abandon their homes in search of safer lands. Others tell of divine displeasure, a punishment for transgressions unknown to modern historians. Travelers passing through nearby villages recount tales of lights that dance across the ruins at night, and whispers of voices carried on the wind, as if the departed inhabitants still linger in spirit. These legends, though unverifiable, add to the aura of mystery, blending folklore with archaeological evidence to create a story that is part history, part imagination. Excavations reveal that the city was once connected to broader trade networks. Pottery styles, metalwork, and imported goods indicate that merchants and artisans traveled across regions, exchanging not only commodities but also ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. The city likely thrived economically, sustaining workshops, markets, and craftspeople who contributed to its vibrancy. Yet even this prosperity could not safeguard it from the forces that led to its sudden abandonment, emphasizing the fragile balance between human achievement and impermanence. The architecture of the city is both practical and artistic. Houses are constructed of local stone, often with courtyards that allowed for light, ventilation, and communal activities. Streets are narrow, winding, and often stepped, adapting to the natural contours of the terrain. Public buildings, including baths, meeting halls, and administrative offices, reveal attention to both civic function and aesthetic presentation. Some walls bear inscriptions, though many have eroded to illegibility. Occasional fresco fragments hint at scenes of daily life, religious ceremonies, or symbolic motifs. Together, these elements create a city that was not only habitable but alive with culture, ritual, and social interaction. The city's disappearance remains a puzzle. Scientific analysis has considered environmental changes, shifts in climate, sudden droughts, or soil depletion. Yet while these factors may have contributed to long-term challenges, they do not fully explain the abrupt exodus. There is no evidence of siege, mass violence, or catastrophic natural disaster. Instead, the city seems to vanish almost magically, leaving a haunting emptiness where human activity once thrived. Researchers continue to return season after season, hoping to uncover new clues. Yet the site stubbornly resists definitive explanation, its silence as compelling as its structures. Walking through the ruins today, one encounters a profound sense of temporality. The wind carries the scent of dust and stone, rustling through collapsed roofs and empty streets. Sunlight casts shifting shadows across eroded steps and fallen columns, creating fleeting impressions of movement, as if echoes of the past are briefly visible. Birds and small animals have made homes within the ruins, yet their presence seems to accentuate rather than diminish the city's ghostly stillness. Every corner, every cracked wall, and every hollowed doorway suggests stories left untold, lives interrupted, and choices made in the shadow of unknown forces. Artifacts discovered at the site continue to fuel fascination. Pottery fragments with intricate patterns, tools left in workshops, jewelry partially buried in floors, and coins from distant lands reveal a city engaged in trade, craft, and social ritual. None, however, reveal a clear answer to the question that haunts every observer: why did the people leave so suddenly, and where did they go? Hypotheses abound: mass migration due to resource depletion, fear of invading forces, or spiritual omens compelling departure. Yet each theory encounters contradictions in the evidence, leaving the city suspended between possibility and mystery. The city's location itself adds to its enigmatic aura. Situated on a plateau overlooking fertile valleys, it was ideally positioned for agriculture, defense, and observation of approaching travelers. Its strategic advantages, however, did not prevent its disappearance. Nature has slowly reclaimed the site. Plants sprout through stone cracks, roots push apart walls, and the desert sands encroach upon streets once meticulously paved. Even as time works to erase the city's form, its presence remains indelible, a silent record of human ambition and fragility. Excavations have revealed subtle features that hint at advanced engineering. Water channels, cisterns, and drainage systems suggest a sophisticated understanding of hydraulics, ensuring the city could manage rainfall and river runoff. Foundations are carefully leveled, and stones precisely cut to fit without mortar in some areas, demonstrating technical skill and attention to detail. Some scholars argue that the city's planning indicates an understanding of social hierarchy, with larger homes for elites near central squares, smaller dwellings on the periphery, and communal spaces facilitating gatherings, trade, and civic rituals. Yet despite these insights, the city's sudden abandonment continues to captivate imagination. Visitors report a palpable stillness, a tension between the solidity of stone and the impermanence of human life. The lack of obvious disaster or warfare renders the city's emptiness uncanny, a stage frozen in time. Photographers capturing the ruins at dusk note that light seems to cling differently to the walls, shadows forming shapes that echo human presence, a phenomenon that evokes both wonder and unease. Legends have persisted alongside archaeology. Local inhabitants speak of nights when the wind carries whispers, as if the departed residents recount stories, issue warnings, or lament losses. Some claim to see fleeting figures between ruins at twilight, shadows of ancestors who remain bound to their city. Others suggest that the city itself is a living entity, a conscious place that withdrew its inhabitants to preserve itself from unseen dangers. While these tales cannot be scientifically verified, they enrich the human dimension of the site, emphasizing the emotional resonance of a city that disappeared without leaving definitive answers. The city's enduring mystery continues to draw global attention. Teams of archaeologists, historians, and anthropologists return repeatedly, each hoping to uncover artifacts, inscriptions, or patterns that explain the sudden exodus. Technologies such as ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and soil analysis provide new data, yet often raise more questions than answers. The city resists full comprehension, a reminder that human history is as much about what remains unseen as what endures in stone. Even centuries after its abandonment, the city exerts influence. Writers, artists, and storytellers draw inspiration from its silent streets, imagining narratives of daily life, societal dynamics, and the dramatic moment of departure. Some envision families packing hastily, leaving possessions behind in fear of unseen threats. Others imagine a deliberate, planned migration, communities moving in unison guided by knowledge or prophecy lost to time. These interpretations, though speculative, demonstrate the city's power to evoke thought, emotion, and wonder, connecting modern minds to ancient lives. Ultimately, the city that departed without a trace stands as a monument to human ingenuity, vulnerability, and mystery. Its streets and structures testify to a society that once thrived, its sudden abandonment reminding us of the impermanence of human achievement. Standing amidst its ruins, one feels both the weight of history and the fragility of existence, the tension between creation and loss, and the allure of a mystery that time has preserved rather than solved. As the sun dips below the distant hills, casting elongated shadows across collapsed walls and empty streets, the city whispers silently to those who listen. It speaks of life interrupted, of decisions made under unknown pressures, of a civilization that vanished, yet left a testament of stone, alignment, and human presence. The city that departed without a trace remains a puzzle, an inspiration, and a solemn reminder that even the most vibrant communities can vanish, leaving only questions, echoes, and the quiet testimony of ruins. In this way, the abandoned city embodies both history and enigma, challenging observers to consider the intersection of human ambition, environmental circumstance, and the unknowable forces that shape existence. Every fragment of pottery, every eroded wall, and every silent courtyard is a clue in a narrative that refuses closure, yet invites endless curiosity. Here, in the heart of Turkey, the city waits, not to reveal its secrets, but to offer a bridge across time, a portal through which modern eyes can glimpse lives, choices, and mysteries that have endured long after the last footstep faded into silence. The city, though abandoned, is far from lifeless. Each stone seems imbued with memory, each shadow a remnant of human endeavor, each echo a resonance of laughter, conversation, and ceremony long past. And while we may never fully understand why its people left, or where they went, the city's presence reminds us that history is not merely recorded in texts or artifacts, but in the spaces we inhabit, the landscapes we shape, and the enduring mysteries we encounter along the way. The whale drawn into the dust for the gods. In the arid expanses of southern Peru, where the desert stretches endlessly toward the horizon, and the sky is so vast it seems to hold every secret of time, lies one of humanity's most mesmerizing enigmas, the whale drawn into the dust for the gods. Etched into the earth with astonishing precision, this immense geoglyph portrays a creature both magnificent and mysterious, its sinuous form extending across the desert floor in sweeping lines that can only be fully appreciated from the air. Though countless theories have arisen to explain its creation, its purpose remains as elusive as the winds that have sculpted the surrounding sands over millennia. Standing on the desert ground beneath the glyph, one can only imagine the audacious vision of those who laid it down, their labor monumental, their intent profound, and their connection to the unseen world undeniable. The Nazca people, who flourished between approximately 200 BCE and 600 CE, are credited with crafting this and hundreds of other geoglyphs across the Pampa de San Jose and the surrounding plains. These enormous designs, ranging from simple geometric shapes to intricate depictions of animals, birds, and mythological beings, represent an artistic language written across the land itself. The whale, unlike many smaller figures, stretches over hundreds of feet, a testament to both technical ingenuity and spiritual devotion. Scholars have noted that such designs required precise surveying methods, careful measurement, and a profound understanding of proportion and perspective, achieved without the benefit of modern tools. Each line, each curve, each placement was intentional, demanding laborers to work with extraordinary coordination across the vast, featureless terrain. The creation of the geoglyph is a feat of human perseverance. Workers removed dark stones from the desert surface, revealing lighter soil beneath, forming contrasts that have endured for centuries despite wind, occasional rain, and the relentless sun. The lines are remarkably straight and the contours meticulously shaped, suggesting the use of stakes, ropes, and rudimentary surveying techniques. Yet no definitive records survive to describe the process. One can imagine the collective effort, teams moving in silence, or perhaps chanting ritualistic incantations, guided by spiritual leaders who imbued each sweep of the line with sacred intent. It is this blend of practical execution and ceremonial purpose that renders the whale not merely an artwork, but a living testimony to the intersection of devotion, labor, and cosmic understanding. The symbolic meaning of the whale remains a subject of speculation. Some researchers propose that it represents marine life and the crucial role of water in the arid environment of the Nazca region. Others suggest that it embodies mythological or spiritual concepts, serving as a messenger to deities or an offering to ensure fertility, rainfall, and the prosperity of the community. The whale's presence among other geoglyphs depicting birds, monkeys, and felines hints at a cosmological map, perhaps illustrating the Nazca understanding of the natural world, celestial cycles, and the interconnectedness of life. Unlike modern maps, however, these designs do not merely record geography, they communicate belief, ritual, and a reverence for forces beyond human comprehension. The desert itself seems to guard the whale in solemn majesty. The harsh sun, sweeping winds, and extreme dryness that characterize the Nazca Plains have contributed to the preservation of the lines, protecting them from erosion while rendering the land inhospitable to casual exploration. Visitors today often feel an overwhelming sense of scale and solitude, as if the desert, the glyph, and the sky are engaged in a silent dialogue. The emptiness emphasizes the audacity of the whale's design, making its presence both strikingly tangible and ineffably mysterious. Standing near one of the geoglyph's edges, it is impossible not to feel both awe and humility, realizing that an entire society once labored for purposes that may remain beyond our understanding. The whale and other geoglyphs of the Nazca region invite questions about the knowledge possessed by their creators. Many alignments suggest astronomical significance, with certain lines pointing toward solstices or equinoxes, hinting at an integration of celestial observation into their ritual practices. Some researchers have argued that the geoglyphs functioned as ceremonial pathways, designed to be traversed during processions or offerings. Others believe that they were intended for the gods themselves to behold, their magnitude and clarity visible only from the sky, reinforcing the notion that the Nazca people envisioned a world in which human action reached beyond the earth to touch the heavens. The whale, with its graceful form and meticulous design, embodies this vision, a bridge between the terrestrial and the divine. Exploration of the surrounding region reveals additional mysteries connected to the geoglyphs. Subterranean aqueducts, or puquios, hint at sophisticated water management practices, suggesting that the Nazca civilization possessed both practical engineering skill and spiritual sensibilities, intertwined with their environment. Pottery fragments, textiles, and ceremonial artifacts found near geoglyphs indicate that these sites were not merely artistic endeavors but focal points for community ritual, reinforcing social cohesion and spiritual identity. The whale, as one of the largest and most iconic figures, likely occupied a central role in these practices, serving as both symbol and sanctuary, art and altar. The scale of the whale continues to astound modern observers. From ground level, its immense contours may appear abstract, but from the air, the figure resolves into a recognizable and deliberate representation. This duality, where perception shifts dramatically based on perspective, speaks to a sophisticated understanding of visual cognition and communication. The geoglyph transcends mere decoration. It operates on multiple levels, conveying messages to humans and deities alike, celebrating life, inspiring reverence, and asserting presence within a vast, often unforgiving landscape. Despite centuries of exposure to natural elements, the whale remains remarkably preserved. The desert's unique conditions have prevented significant erosion, allowing modern archaeologists to study the lines and gain insight into Nazca techniques and intentions. Yet the preservation is not absolute. Periodic windstorms, climate shifts, and human interference pose ongoing threats. Conservation efforts, both local and international, seek to protect this delicate heritage, balancing the need for scientific study with the imperative of maintaining the geoglyph's integrity. The whale thus becomes not only a relic of the past but a responsibility for the present and future. The whale's presence has inspired generations of scholars, explorers, and travelers. Its image adorns books, documentaries, and virtual reconstructions, yet these representations can scarcely capture the profound impact of standing before it in situ. Visitors describe a sense of timelessness, as if the glyph exists simultaneously in the past and present, a connection across centuries to a culture that vanished, yet left an enduring mark. Its lines whisper of human devotion, imagination, and the capacity to transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. Interpretations of the whale's significance continue to evolve. Some propose that it represents the harmony between land and sea, reflecting the Nazca reliance on coastal resources and reverence for aquatic life. Others see the glyph as part of a larger ritual network, designed to invoke divine favor, ensure cosmic balance, or commemorate historical events. While definitive evidence remains elusive, each hypothesis underscores the ingenuity, complexity, and spiritual depth of the Nazca civilization. The story of the whale is inseparable from the desert itself. The endless sand and stone, the scorching sun and cold nights, the vast silence punctuated by wind, all form the context in which this geoglyph was conceived and remains visible. The land, harsh yet majestic, both conceals and reveals the contours of human ambition. The whale is not merely an image, it is a dialogue between people and place, a testament to observation, ritual, and the desire to leave a mark that transcends mortality. The geoglyphs of Nazca, and the whale in particular, remind us of the impermanence of human life, contrasted with the persistence of intention. The people who drew these lines have long vanished, yet their vision endures, etched into the desert for anyone willing to seek it. The whale, in its elegance and enormity, embodies the power of art, the depth of belief, and the mysterious impulse to communicate across time. It stands as a reminder that some creations are meant to be witnessed, not just by the living, but by the gods, the cosmos, and the generations that follow, stretching across centuries with a silent, enduring voice. The forgotten faiths woven into stone. Deep in the dense, humid jungles of Cambodia, where sunlight filters through towering trees, and the air hums with the voices of unseen creatures, lie the remnants of temples that whisper of forgotten faiths. Moss and vines cling to intricately carved stone, their green tendrils threading through bas-reliefs that depict gods, demons, and ceremonial rites long abandoned by time. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves, and the occasional drip of water from a crumbling archway punctuates the profound silence. These ruins, scattered across the landscape, are all that remain of civilizations that once thrived here, crafting monumental architecture that reflected their deepest spiritual convictions. Walking among these ruins, one is immediately struck by the presence of history, as if the stones themselves remember the prayers, chants, and offerings of those who once filled these sacred spaces. The Khmer civilization, responsible for much of this architectural heritage, flourished from roughly the 9th to the 15th centuries, producing some of the most extraordinary stone temples in the world. Angkor, with its towering spires and vast causeways, represents the zenith of this architectural and spiritual achievement. Yet even beyond the main complex lie smaller, forgotten temples, some hidden beneath centuries of jungle growth. These lesser-known structures, although eroded and partially reclaimed by nature, reveal astonishing craftsmanship. Every lintel, every column, every frieze tells a story, preserving rituals and beliefs that may never be fully understood. The images etched into stone depict deities in elaborate poses, ceremonial processions, mythic battles, and offerings to unseen forces, forming a silent narrative that continues to captivate modern explorers and archaeologists alike. The construction of these temples was a monumental endeavor. Massive sandstone blocks, quarried miles away, were transported across rivers and dense forests without the aid of modern machinery. Skilled artisans carved intricate bas-reliefs and sculptures, dedicating countless hours to the depiction of celestial myths and earthly ceremonies. The temples were not merely architectural achievements, they were cosmological statements, aligning with the sun, the moon, and distant stars, embedding sacred meaning into the very orientation of each structure. The labor and devotion invested in these edifices testify to the profound spiritual focus of the Khmer people, whose understanding of the divine world was expressed through stone, scale, and symmetry. Yet, over centuries, many of these temples fell into neglect as empires waned, trade routes shifted, and the tropical climate reclaimed the land. Jungle roots pushed through masonry, trees toppled walls, and monsoon rains eroded fine details, leaving only fragments of what once was. Despite this decay, the essence of the temples persists. One can walk through a doorway, where a stone Naga serpent still coils along the threshold, or stand before a crumbling lintel where apsaras appear frozen mid-dance, and feel the resonance of rituals performed centuries ago. These remnants are not merely ruins, they are echoes of a spiritual landscape, a palimpsest of beliefs layered upon one another, some forgotten entirely, others lingering in the quietude of the stone. The spiritual significance of these forgotten temples extends beyond their physical form. Scholars and local historians suggest that they may have served as sites for syncretic practices, blending animism, Hinduism, and later Buddhism, creating a unique tapestry of devotion. Offerings once left at these sites, now long decomposed or scattered, would have included incense, flowers, and food, all intended to appease gods and spirits, to bring rain, harvests, or protection to communities. Even today, the air seems to carry a sense of sacred expectancy. The flicker of light across a weathered carving can evoke the presence of worshippers who performed chants or dances, their voices now silent but not entirely gone. The temple remnants also provide insight into the cosmological worldview of their creators. Many structures were oriented along cardinal directions or aligned with celestial events, reinforcing the link between the human and divine realms. Reliefs often depict scenes of creation, divine kingship, and the eternal struggle between cosmic forces, suggesting that these temples function not only as places of worship, but as microcosms of the universe. Every element, from the height of a tower to the curve of a staircase, carried symbolic weight. The forgotten faiths represented here understood the world as an interconnected web, where stone, ritual, and sky converged to maintain cosmic order. Visitors to these temples are often struck by a sense of intimacy, despite their monumental scale. The stones, though weathered, retain a tactile presence. One can trace a carved hand of a deity or a serpent's scale with fingertips, connecting physically to the vision of an ancient civilization. Nature's reclamation adds an additional layer of mystique. Roots wind through doorways like living serpents, birds nest in hollowed niches, and vines drape like ceremonial garlands, creating a dialogue between human creation and the unrelenting power of the natural world. The temple ruins are thus both a testament to human aspiration and a reminder of impermanence, as the jungle patiently unfolds what humans leave behind. Archaeological study has revealed more about the daily life and ritual practice associated with these structures. Fragments of pottery, ritual implements, and inscriptions indicate that these temples were centers of community as well as sacred sites. Festivals, processions, and offerings likely took place on terraces and courtyards, while priests and monks would have performed intricate ceremonies to honor deities or invoke blessings. Each temple was a living organism, woven into the social and spiritual fabric of its time, sustaining a dialogue between the mortal and divine. Despite centuries of abandonment, these temples continue to inspire awe and scholarship. Modern conservation efforts aim to preserve the integrity of the stone, prevent further erosion, and study the intricate carvings that reveal insights into Khmer cosmology, artistry, and ritual practice. Yet even with protective measures, the true essence of the forgotten faiths remains partially hidden, residing in the whispers of wind through pillars, the soft drip of rain on moss, and the play of sunlight across reliefs. Every visit is a reminder that these temples are not static relics. They are living witnesses to human devotion, imagination, and the pursuit of transcendence. The forgotten faiths woven into stone are a testament to the depth and complexity of spiritual life in ancient Cambodia. They embody not only the ingenuity of artisans and architects, but also the profound cultural and religious sensibilities of a civilization that sought to embody the cosmos in stone. Each relief, each carving, each moss-covered wall is a story, an offering, a prayer captured in permanence yet softened by the passage of time. They remind us that faith can be both enduring and ephemeral, monumental and intimate, visible yet hidden beneath layers of history and nature's embrace. To wander among these temple remnants is to step into a liminal space where past and present, human and divine, earth and sky converge. The stones carry the weight of centuries, yet they speak softly, inviting reflection, reverence, and wonder. They challenge modern observers to imagine the lives, beliefs, and devotion of those who shaped them, and to consider how spiritual expression can transform raw stone into enduring testimony. In Cambodia's jungles, the forgotten faiths remain woven into stone, a silent chronicle of human aspiration, creativity, and the eternal quest to connect with the divine. The stage held in eternal silence, hidden deep within the limestone cliffs of southern France, far from modern roads and settlements, lies a cave whose walls have borne witness to human presence for tens of thousands of years. The cavern opens to a narrow mouth that allows sunlight to spill in just enough to illuminate the dust-laden air, casting long shadows over rough stone floors where generations of early humans once stood, gathered, and performed. This is the cave theater, a site where stone, shadow, and sound converge into a space that feels both intimate and infinite, as if the natural formations themselves had been deliberately sculpted to hold performances, rituals, and stories. Echoes linger here for minutes, carrying the faintest whisper across the chamber, And it is this resonance, this permanence, that transforms ordinary rock into a stage that has endured the passage of millennia. The cave is not a theater in the sense of carved seats or structured stages. Rather, it is a space defined by the human capacity to imagine and perform. Archaeologists have found traces of charcoal on the walls, suggesting fires that illuminated figures painted with ochre and manganese. These pigments, muted by centuries of air and water, depict animals, hunting scenes, and abstract symbols that may have accompanied chants, dances, or spoken narratives. The cave's natural acoustics amplify subtle sounds, transforming a whispered chant into a rolling wave of echo, suggesting that the performers understood the interplay between voice, movement, and the cave's architecture. Each indentation in the stone, each crevice, seems to have been embraced as a platform or backdrop, giving life to performances that are now silent, yet eternally inscribed in stone. Evidence of ritual activity within the cave is abundant. Burnt bones, flint tools, and fragmented artifacts indicate that ceremonies may have occurred here, possibly to honor animals, ancestors, or unseen forces. The act of performing within this space would have been a profound sensory experience. The smell of fire, the heat radiating from embers, the flickering shadows dancing across jagged walls, and the sound of human voices bouncing back from rough stone surfaces. To step into the cave today is to sense the layering of time. The cave remains unchanged in form, yet every surface, every curve carries echoes of the hands, feet, and voices that shaped its legacy. The artistic significance of the cave theater cannot be overstated. Early humans, etched, painted, and carved, not merely to decorate, but to communicate, to mark presence, and to engage with the unseen. Scenes of bison and horses, lions and mammoths, often appear in dynamic motion, suggesting not a static depiction, but a narrative frozen mid-action. The placement of these figures within the cave is deliberate. Animals appear on walls that curve inwards, on ceilings that rise above, and near recesses where shadows stretch their forms, turning the cave into a natural amphitheater. The act of performance, whether through storytelling, chant, or movement, would have been deeply entwined with these visual representations, creating an immersive sensory and spiritual experience that connected performers, audience, and environment. The cave's design, whether intentional or serendipitous, maximizes acoustics. Researchers who have conducted sound experiments within similar caves in France note that human vocalizations are amplified in precise ways, carrying tonal richness and depth across chambers. This suggests that early humans were acutely aware of how space shapes sound, choosing locations within the cave that enhanced ritual or performance. Imagine the resonance of a single voice multiplied across stone surfaces, the rhythm of drums or clapping echoing in layered harmonics, and the audience enveloped in a cocoon of sound, a shared experience of awe and communion. Nature has also contributed to the cave's timeless ambience. Stalactites drip water in irregular patterns, their soft plinks punctuating silence and reinforcing the natural rhythm of the chamber. Light shifts subtly throughout the day, refracted by openings in the rock, producing fleeting patterns that animate walls and floors. In this environment, the distinction between human creation and natural architecture blurs. The cave itself participates in the performance, shaping shadows, echoing voices, and lending a spiritual gravitas to every gesture and movement. Archaeological investigations reveal that this cave was part of a broader network of ritual and habitation sites. Flint tools, pigments, and animal remains suggest that communities moved through the region seasonally, bringing with them knowledge, stories, and cultural practices. The cave may have served as a ceremonial hub, a place where young initiates were introduced to sacred narratives. Hunters gave thanks for successful kills, or elders recounted ancestral stories. Every corner of the cave could have served a functional and symbolic purpose, from holding offerings to creating illusions of movement in the flickering light of fire. The stage that remains today is silent, yet it exudes the memory of performance. The walls carry impressions of hands and tools, pigments muted to earthy reds and blacks, and small niches that may have held objects or offerings. There is no modern audience here, yet the cave retains the feeling of expectancy, the echo of human emotion, and the weight of communal experience. To enter the cave is to step into an arena of memory, where the boundaries of time collapse, and one can feel intimately connected to people who lived, danced, and spoke tens of thousands of years ago. This cave reminds us that performance, ritual, and art are deeply intertwined aspects of human existence. The cave theater embodies the convergence of natural architecture, human creativity, and spiritual expression. Its preservation allows contemporary observers not only to admire prehistoric artistry, but also to contemplate the universality of storytelling, ritual, and performance. Even in the absence of sound, the cave communicates. It tells of humans seeking to understand their world, honor the creatures around them, and express the ineffable through movement, sound, and pigment. In this quiet, shadowed chamber, one can feel the continuity of human presence. Every contour of stone, every faded marking, and every lingering echo offers insight into the cognitive and spiritual world of early humans. They transformed raw limestone into a theater of memory, embedding stories into walls, manipulating sound and light, and creating a space that could hold generations of performance. The cave theater stands as a testament to human ingenuity, devotion, and the enduring power of narrative. To walk within it is to embrace a liminal space, a sacred intersection of nature, art, and ritual. The stage is held in eternal silence, yet it speaks louder than any modern auditorium, inviting reflection on the depth of human imagination, the sophistication of early culture, and the eternal resonance of creativity carved into stone. The Cave Theatre of France remains a living monument, a bridge across time, where the past performs silently for those who step within its cool, echoing embrace. The coins that whisper through fire. Beneath layers of ash, soil, and forgotten memory, there exists a hoard of ancient coins in Italy, whose story seems to hum faintly even now, as if the fire that once threatened to consume them had instead inscribed their voices into metal. Discovered beneath the ruins of a long-abandoned settlement, the coins are remnants of an era when Rome's influence stretched across the Italian peninsula, and currency was more than a medium of trade. It was a bearer of stories, symbols, and power. Each coin, though small and seemingly ordinary, carries with it the imprint of time, the face of an emperor, the emblem of a deity, the faint edge of a workshop that no longer exists. These coins, preserved against all odds by the soil and the flames that once surrounded them, seem to murmur to those who hold them, as though recounting their journey from hand to hand, market to market, and eventually to the earth itself. The hoard's discovery was accidental, emerging during excavations aimed at understanding a Roman villa's layout. Beneath a collapsed hearth and charred timber, archaeologists uncovered hundreds of coins, some melted slightly along their edges, others etched with soot from a fire long forgotten. The blackened surfaces speak of a catastrophe, a blaze that consumed homes, perhaps during a raid, an accident, or a natural disaster. Yet the coins survived, paradoxically, their metal alloy enduring heat that devoured everything around them. This resilience imbues the hoard with an almost mystical presence. These small discs of silver and bronze, scratched and worn, speak of survival, of endurance, and of voices that refuse to be silenced. Examining the coins closely reveals details that transform them from mundane objects into living records. Emperors' profiles, worn but recognizable, gaze outward, as if surveying centuries of history. Inscriptions along the rims hint at dates, cities of minting, and symbolic motifs, wheat sheaves, eagles, and gods of war and harvest that connect each coin to the beliefs and daily lives of the people who use them. Some coins bear marks of repeated handling, evidence of passing from merchant to customer, from soldier to citizen, or from parent to child. The coins are, in essence, tiny vessels of human activity, each one whispering the rhythm of a civilization that burned and rebuilt itself over generations. The fire that consumed the surrounding structures adds a haunting layer to the coin's narrative. Heat warped some edges, darkened surfaces, and left subtle marks that speak of chaos and survival. Unlike the buildings that succumbed entirely to flame, the coins remained, scattered yet together, as if the act of burning had consecrated them rather than destroyed them. Holding a coin from this hoard is to feel the paradox of destruction and preservation simultaneously. The flame that should have silenced them instead gave them a voice that echoes through centuries. Archaeologists often describe the sensation of handling them as almost eerie. The coins feel warm with history, carrying the memory of fire and human hands alike. These coins also speak of the socio-economic realities of their era. Their composition and minting reflect trade routes, metallurgical knowledge, and regional differences. Silver coins may have circulated among merchants and elites, while bronze pieces likely facilitated everyday transactions among common citizens. The hoard, in its complete form, represents a cross-section of society: the elite who commissioned and controlled wealth, the artisans who struck the metal, and the ordinary people who carried these coins in pockets and purses. Each coin is a fragment of a living economy, a miniature testament to how societies functioned, flourished, and sometimes perished under the pressures of war, politics, or natural disaster. Beyond their historical value, the coins evoke the imagination. One can picture a Roman citizen fleeing a sudden blaze, tossing coins into a chest, or burying them beneath floorboards, intending to recover them later, a promise unfulfilled, leaving the treasure entombed in ash. The coins became both witnesses and participants in a story of urgency, fear, and hope. In their muted clink when touched together, they seem to replay these moments, as though each coin holds the echo of hurried footsteps, whispered instructions, and the flicker of flames reflected in wide eyes. The coin's survival is a testament to the resilience of human craft. Metallurgy in ancient Rome was advanced, yet these coins' preservation depended as much on accident as skill. The interplay of fire, soil, and careful minting allowed the coins to endure centuries of neglect. Now displayed in controlled museum conditions, they remain evocative and almost mystical, reminding modern viewers that objects, even the smallest and seemingly mundane, can carry stories more powerful than any written text. Visitors often remark that holding a coin from this hoard feels like touching time itself, a direct tactile link to the distant past. Yet beyond tactile connection, the coins inspire reflection on impermanence and continuity. They survived fire, collapse, neglect, and rediscovery, outlasting homes, streets, and perhaps even the memories of those who owned them. In a quiet room illuminated with soft museum lighting, one can almost hear the faint whisper of the coin's journey, from minting workshops to bustling markets, into purses and pockets, into the chaos of fire, and finally into the earth that cradled them for centuries. The coins, in their small, unassuming forms, carry both the fragility of human life and the durability of human creation, serving as bridges across time that connect us to experiences and emotions long past. The story of the coins that whisper through fire is more than a tale of material survival. It is a meditation on history, memory, and the ways human lives leave marks, both ephemeral and enduring. Each coin represents labor, culture, and human presence, capturing the fleeting moments of daily life while outlasting the structures built to contain it. The fire that nearly destroyed them transformed them into symbols of resilience, turning what could have been a simple artifact into a profound narrative of endurance. In the hushed silence of the exhibition room, the coins seem almost alive. Their edges, worn by hands long gone, reflect light subtly, shimmering like tiny embers caught in time. They remind us that even objects perceived as inert carry the weight of human existence, retaining echoes of voices, steps, and gestures. The ancient coin hoard in Italy is not merely a collection of metal discs, it is a living testament to continuity amid catastrophe, a monument to the whispers that survive when fire consumes everything else. To stand before these coins is to stand at the crossroads of destruction and preservation, to sense the enduring pulse of history through small objects that have borne witness to centuries. The coins that whisper through fire invite reflection on the human story itself, on how ordinary objects can transcend time, how disasters can create legacy, and how the smallest artifacts can speak more powerfully than grand monuments. They whisper of life and death, loss and discovery, and the fragile yet persistent imprint of human civilization. In their silent resonance, the coins continue their performance, an eternal echo of fire, survival, and memory, waiting for those who are willing to listen. The bronze plaques that told unknown tales. In the arid plains of southeastern Iran, where the sun scorches the earth and the wind carries whispers from centuries past, archaeologists uncovered a series of bronze plaques whose presence seemed almost miraculous. Known as the Unsolved plaques, these artifacts emerged from the dust and sands of an ancient civilization, bearing symbols, motifs, and images that continue to elude full understanding. Each plaque, though small and seemingly simple, conveys stories that predate much of recorded history in the region, hinting at a culture both sophisticated and enigmatic. The bronze patina tells of centuries spent buried in earth that has preserved rather than consumed, and each etched line seems to pulse with life, as if the people who engraved them had embedded a fragment of their essence into metal. The discovery of the plaques was not the result of grand excavations, but rather a fortunate accident, brought to light by looters who were eventually superseded by professional archaeologists. What they found was staggering. Hundreds of plaques, some shaped in rectangles, others with more irregular contours, adorned with figures of animals, humans, and fantastical creatures, all arranged in ways that suggest ritual, myth, or storytelling. Unlike written records from Mesopotamia or Egypt, these images defy conventional interpretation. They do not translate into words easily, but instead invite contemplation, encouraging one to reconstruct the lives, beliefs, and ceremonies of a people otherwise lost to time. Upon closer inspection, the plaques reveal remarkable artistic skill and symbolic depth. Some portray human figures engaged in what appear to be ceremonial acts. Others depict hybrid creatures, lion-bodied beings with human faces, birds with serpentine tails, interacting in ways that suggest mythology and legend. The precision of the engravings suggests artisans with not only technical skill but also profound imagination. The lines, curves, and reliefs are meticulously designed, creating a sense of narrative movement across each plaque, inviting the observer to trace gestures and interactions as though witnessing a performance frozen in metal. Each plaque is a window into the psyche of a civilization that has vanished. A civilization that understood the power of visual storytelling long before the written word became commonplace. The Unsolved plaque's location hints at a once flourishing city, whose reach and influence remain only partially understood. Archaeologists speculate that the region was a hub of trade and culture, connecting distant lands through commerce and shared beliefs. Metals, particularly bronze, were treasured not just for their utility, but for their ability to carry meaning, ritual, ceremonial, or commemorative. Some plaques suggest offerings to gods, Others seem to depict communal events, while a few remain completely inscrutable, leaving the mind to wander and imagine what tales were intended to be conveyed. The mystery is heightened by the context in which they were found, buried deliberately, sometimes in caches, as if their creators intended to protect knowledge for a future generation, or perhaps to shield it from catastrophe. The resilience of the bronze itself speaks to the endurance of the culture. Where wood and clay might crumble, bronze endures, preserving the delicate incisions that make the plaques legible to anyone patient enough to study them. The metallic sheen, dulled by age yet persistent, captures sunlight in a manner that gives the impression of latent energy, an almost magical presence that transforms these artifacts from mere objects into conduits of history. They are not just historical evidence, they are storytellers, whispering in a language of line and form that challenges modern perception. Scholars have spent decades attempting to decode the symbolism, comparing it to neighboring cultures, to scripts, to religious iconography, yet much remains tantalizingly obscure. Each plaque resists definitive interpretation, encouraging instead a dialogue across millennia between the unknown creators and the modern observer. Beyond their scholarly value, the plaques evoke a deeply human response. Holding or even viewing one invites reflection on continuity, mortality, and memory. These objects survived desert sands, looters, and centuries of neglect, emerging into light to speak of lives once lived. They connect us with a humanity that, though separated by thousands of years, is recognizable in its aspirations, fears, and creativity. Some plaques suggest ritualized worship, others hint at societal hierarchy, yet all point to a community conscious of its place in the cosmos and of the power of visual storytelling. The plaques transform from artifacts into messengers, urging observers to imagine the smells, sounds, and rhythms of a city long vanished, to consider the humans who engraved, handled, and ultimately buried them. The giraffe plaques are not simply static relics, they possess an almost auditory quality in the mind's eye. Their lines and figures seem to murmur, recounting ceremonies, recounting sacrifices, recounting tales of heroism, tragedy, and cosmic wonder. Their survival in bronze is emblematic of the permanence of artistic expression, a testament to the enduring human desire to communicate and to leave a mark on the world. While written history may have overlooked this civilization, these plaques assert its presence unmistakably, demanding attention, respect, and curiosity. To study the giraffe plaques is to enter into a dialogue with the distant past. Each etched animal, each human form, each abstract symbol is a sentence in a conversation interrupted by time but not silenced. They prompt questions without easy answers. Who were these people? What stories did they tell? What inspired their choice of images and symbols? What rituals or daily activities are depicted in these small, resilient fragments of bronze? Scholars can only speculate, but speculation itself becomes a bridge, connecting the observer to an imaginative reconstruction of a lost world. The atmosphere surrounding the plaques is almost sacred. Displayed under careful lighting, their metallic surfaces glint, revealing nuances invisible at first glance. Shadows from the incisions dance lightly across their surfaces, creating the illusion of movement, a flicker of the lives once lived. Visitors often describe a subtle emotional pull, a sensation that they are not merely looking at objects, but listening to echoes, witnessing history in motion, and sensing the pulse of a civilization that predates much of what we conventionally study. The story of the giraffe plaques continues to unfold. Each excavation, each study, each careful restoration reveals more details, yet also deepens the mystery. They remind us that history is not always linear, that knowledge can lie buried and rediscovered, and that the human desire to express and record experiences transcends time. They are proof that even when civilizations vanish, traces of their creativity and thought persist, waiting patiently to speak to anyone willing to see, to listen, and to imagine. The plaque's endurance also serves as a meditation on fragility and resilience. Bronze, though sturdy, is still vulnerable. The desert, looters, and environmental forces could have destroyed them entirely. That they survived, intact enough to convey their enigmatic narratives, suggests deliberate care in their creation and deposition. Perhaps they were intended to last, or perhaps it was chance. Either way, their survival connects us with moments frozen in time, with stories that refuse to be forgotten, with the artistry of a people who understood that expression itself is a bridge across ages. In the quietude of an exhibition hall or the dust of a remote dig site, the giraffe plaques whisper insistently to those who pause to observe. They are lessons in endurance, reminders of the creativity inherent in human societies, and mysteries that provoke awe. Each plaque is simultaneously specific and universal, a singular artifact imbued with the collective memory of a civilization whose voice continues to resonate through metal, through symbols, and through the imagination of anyone who encounters them. Their message is clear, though inscrutable. Civilization, art, and human curiosity can survive even when all else seems lost. As the mind traces the lines etched by unknown hands, one feels the presence of those long gone, sensing their dreams, their rituals, their daily lives, and their engagement with the cosmos around them. The plaques, in their silent and enduring way, tell tales no text has preserved. They remind us that history is not merely written in books but engraved in objects, etched into bronze, whispered through time and preserved in ways both fragile and astonishingly resilient. The bronze plaques that told unknown tales carry these whispers forward, ensuring that the unknown stories of Unsolved live on, inviting reflection, imagination, and awe for generations to come. The Celestial Secrets of Dendera Temple Complex. In the heart of Upper Egypt, along the gentle banks of the Nile, stands a monument that has withstood millennia, a structure both magnificent and enigmatic, known as the Dendera Temple Complex. Its sandstone walls and columns, painted with pigments that have faded yet persist, tell tales of devotion, astronomy, and the sophisticated mind of a civilization that revered the heavens as much as the earth. The complex, dedicated primarily to Hathor, goddess of love, music, and the cosmic rhythm, is a labyrinth of halls, sanctuaries, and sacred chambers, each carved and adorned with symbols that convey not only religious devotion, but also extraordinary knowledge of the stars, planets, and celestial cycles. Every relief and carving, from the smallest hieroglyph to the largest bas-relief, pulses with intent, a deliberate act meant to bridge the human and the divine. Visitors first encounter the grand hypostyle hall, where massive columns rise like petrified trees into the sky, their capitals adorned with the head of Hathor, smiling serenely at all who pass. These columns are more than decorative. They are encoded with patterns that align with the stars, linking the architecture itself to the movements of the heavens. The walls depict priests and pharaohs performing rituals, yet interspersed among them are astronomical diagrams, star charts, and cosmic symbolism that hint at a level of celestial understanding that modern scholars are still striving to decode. Here, the heavens were mapped, not on paper or parchment, but in stone, a testament to the Egyptians' belief in the permanence of knowledge and their desire to enshrine it for eternity. The ceilings of Dendera are among the most striking features, painted with constellations and planetary alignments that reveal a sophisticated awareness of cosmic cycles. The famous zodiac of Dendera, though removed in the 19th century and now housed far from Egypt, originally graced the ceiling of the temple's chapel. It depicted the 12 signs of the zodiac, planets, and stars, intricately woven into a visual narrative that connected the heavens to earthly events. Scholars and enthusiasts alike have marveled at the precision of these depictions, which not only served religious or ceremonial purposes, but also reflected a deep observational understanding of astronomy. The temple was not merely a place of worship, it was a cosmic observatory, a bridge between mortal existence and celestial order. One of the most fascinating chambers within the complex is the crypt, a subterranean hall where light barely penetrates and shadows cling to every corner. The walls here are adorned with reliefs of sacred rituals, depictions of the afterlife, and intricate scenes showing deities in enigmatic postures. Among these is the Dendera light, a relief that has fascinated historians and pseudo-archaeologists alike. It portrays a figure holding a bulbous object connected to a serpent-like cable, suspended above an altar. While conventional Egyptology interprets this as symbolic representations of fertility and creation myths, some have speculated whether it hints at a technology lost to time, a visual metaphor for cosmic illumination, or a combination of spiritual and practical symbolism. Whatever the interpretation, it is undeniable that the relief captivates, evoking curiosity, wonder, and a sense of mystery that transcends the centuries. The temple complex also holds the Hathor Temple proper, a sanctuary of unparalleled artistry. Here, sacred images of the goddess, priests, and offerings dominate the walls. The sanctity of the space is amplified by the precision of the carvings and the harmony of the architecture. Each room leads seamlessly into another, suggesting a journey through sacred space that mirrors the spiritual journey of life, death, and rebirth. Pilgrims would have entered these halls in ceremonial processions, guided by priests who interpreted the complex symbolic language of the walls. Even today, standing in these chambers, one can sense the meticulous orchestration of movement, sightlines, and ritual, designed to immerse the devotee fully into the divine narrative. The outer walls and gates of the complex tell stories of kings and pharaohs, their triumphs, and divine favor, yet they are interspersed with celestial imagery. Solar discs, stars, and planetary symbols appear frequently, often accompanied by hieroglyphs describing cosmic phenomena, the cyclical nature of time, and the interaction between gods and humans. The integration of astronomy with religious and political narrative is unique, creating a multidimensional tapestry where the earthly and the divine coexist, each reinforcing the other. Scholars studying these walls have noted an advanced knowledge of lunar cycles, planetary motion, and even eclipses, demonstrating that the Dendera priests and architects were not merely spiritual leaders, but also keen observers of the heavens. one cannot ignore the exquisite reliefs of animals, hybrid creatures, and mythological beings. These figures are not mere decoration, they encode stories, rituals, and teachings about the cosmos and morality. The depiction of Hathor herself, with her bovine features and celestial crown, symbolizes both fertility and cosmic harmony, reminding the visitor that human existence is inextricably tied to the rhythms of the universe. Across the complex, recurring motifs of serpents, birds, and celestial bodies suggest a layered cosmology, a worldview where the earthly realm mirrors and is influenced by the heavens above. Despite centuries of exposure, excavation, and study, the Dendera temple complex continues to defy complete understanding. Every relief, column, and ceiling painting invites inquiry, provoking both awe and humility. The ancient Egyptians designed this space not only as a center for worship, but as a repository of cosmic knowledge, preserved in stone for generations to come. Even the pigments, although faded, reveal a palette that speaks of intentionality, symbolism, and reverence for detail. The temple is as much a visual narrative of human aspiration as it is an architectural achievement, a place where art, science, and spirituality converge in seamless harmony. The Dendera temple complex is also a testament to human ingenuity and the capacity to intertwine culture with observation. From its monumental architecture to the tiniest incisions in reliefs, it embodies a culture that sought to comprehend its world and place within it. The precise alignment of temples and sanctuaries to celestial events underscores a desire to harmonize human life with cosmic cycles, bridging the gap between heaven and earth. These constructions are silent teachers, offering lessons in patience, observation, and the power of symbolism that transcends language. Walking through the corridors, one can almost hear the echo of rituals long past, the chants of priests, the soft rustle of ceremonial robes, the reverberation of sacred music. The temple is imbued with an energy that speaks across millennia, a quiet insistence that even as dynasties rise and fall, knowledge, art, and devotion endure. It is a space that invites reflection, a place where the boundaries between observer and observed, human and divine, earthly and cosmic, blur in the soft glow of imagination. The mysteries of the Dendera temple complex are endless. From the celestial ceiling to the enigmatic reliefs, from the crypts below to the courtyards above, every aspect offers insight, provocation, and wonder. It reminds us that civilization is not only built in stone, but also in understanding, observation, and the quest to reconcile human life with the cosmos. Here time bends. History is etched in pigment and stone, yet it speaks as vividly today as it did thousands of years ago. The celestial secrets of Dendera temple complex endure, a timeless whisper from a civilization that gazed at the stars and sought to capture their secrets within the permanence of stone, inviting all who encounter it to join in a silent dialogue that stretches across the ages, bridging past, present, and imagination. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time and mystery. From ancient gold to forgotten temples, the world is full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed this exploration, please subscribe, hit like, and share in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive, and may the mysteries of the past continue to inspire wonder.